soon as you see the yellow light in the corner, there you go.
All right. The long, deep sleep of someone who has earned it, someone who has just worked a long 16-hour day. The sun is just cresting over the top of the tall treetops, but Slango Camp is already abuzz with activity. Up around 4:30 in the morning to get their work done. But you lumberjacks, you find that to do your sort of work in the daylight. As each of you rise and wake in the morning, how about each of you describe your morning routines to me, starting with Ethan?
Okay, so he wakes up every day, and I'm assuming that there's coffee in this world. So he wakes up every day, and he drinks coffee black. He doesn't eat anything, and he goes and he makes sure that his axe is sharp, and that there are no nicks or anything in the blade. It's just an old habit from having to take care of a sword every day, and it's pretty much it. He doesn't say a whole lot to anybody. He's very to himself and does his work with purpose. Nobody necessarily knows why he seems so standoffish all the time. He just, even whenever people try to talk to him, he just responds in short, terse responses. So.
Yeah, and people definitely do keep their distance. They know not to mess with a man who's quiet. It's always the quiet ones that people here have learned that pretty quickly out in the wilderness. And excuse me, your character's name is Fergus. I addressed you by your actual name. That's my fault. Let's go with Caradoc. What's your morning routine like?
So Caradoc Blevins, also known as the Oakhart to the folks of Camp Slango, just because he's been chopping down wood for probably at least a couple of decades. I mean, he's an older man, sort of stoop-shouldered with like this kind of halo of like lank white hair, very weathered face, always unshaven. No matter how much he shaves. He's always got that 5 o'clock shadow thing going on. Craggy features. He wakes up in his bed next to his wife, Edwina Blevins, who looks remarkably good for her age. She's only a few years younger than he is, and he's in his late 40s, early 50s. And he sort of gives her a little peck on the cheek as he gets up, kind of stretches the kinks out of his bones. Oh, shit. And then he heads out into the kitchen of the small little cabin where they live. Probably, picks up a few pieces of the bread that Edwina had left over from last night's dinner. He eats only like the interior portion of the bread. He leaves the crusts. He leaves the crusts on the table. He goes ahead and he puts on his kind of work clothes, I suppose, probably just like a tunic and breeches with his scale mail over top. Never be too careful when you're cutting down trees. And his hand axes, all his other equipment. And then he scoops up the crusts, heads outside, and he just whistles once, and this mastiff, this like large, dark brown furred mastiff with streaks of gray in his coat, just bounds up to him. And this is Pavel, that is Caradoc's loyal companion, and he feeds him the crust from his hand, and he sets off to work. But before he gets to the grove or whatever site they're going to be deforesting today, he always makes sure to stop by his nephew's home. He usually just stands outside for a second with Pavel and just calls out, "Davy, get your lazy ass up, boy!" And then he shuffles off to work.
And Davy usually is just he's woken up by that shouting consistently every morning. But it's not just the shouting. His dog Emerson goes off at the sound of the gruff voice outside. Emerson's like this sleek, kind of dark tan, ruddy colored hunting dog. And he just starts howling at the shout. And Davy wakes up, and he's already dressed because he's a single guy. He's a bachelor. He was out carousing the night before as usual. Excuse me. And he came back late and crashes in these sort of American frontier style tasseled tan leather jacket and leather pants. And he kind of just grabs his hat off the corner of the bed. He grabs his musket, and he puts his hand axes on his belt, and he just heads for the door and swings open. He's rubbing the sleep out of his eyes, and just goes, "Oh, come on, Uncle. Couldn't you just be a little bit quieter next time? Just knock on the door. Give it a try."
"You've been out drinking again, nephew. I disapprove." And with that, Caradoc just kind of slaps Pavel on the shoulder. The Mastiff kind of gives Davy this like disgusted look if a dog can give someone a disgusted look, and just goes, They both sort of walk off to work.
Yep. Davy follows along with Emerson.
All right. Max, what's your morning routine like?
Well, Max is always up before dawn. She's always getting ready with her exercises, making sure she's all oiled up and ready to go with her joints kind of getting older. She's about approaching middle age, and she is a very tall blonde with sharp blue eyes and pale skin, and she has an ugly scar across her face from being shot at, and the shrapnel kind of cutting past her face, and now it's kind of scarred for life with powder. And she always gets up early to kind of watch the sunrise, that even in this gloomy world, that there's still some beauty left in the world. And she kind of grunts to herself, grabs some dried meat, some alcohol that's left over. There's about a third of the bottle left, and she takes a swig, kind of bundles up, and heads on for work.
All right. Caradoc and Davy, you, along with your dogs, Pavel and Emerson, are walking down the isn't a fancy place at all. It is a long, they're constantly filled with mud, and you're trudging along through this muck, trying to get to your stand of trees that you have been working on for the past few months, when you're assailed by a voice from behind you saying, "Caradoc, Davy, come here." And you both turn around, and standing there is McGrath, the foreman camp. He's a short, wiry man with sideburns poking out of both sides of his face, and he looks up at the both of you and says to you, "Perhaps."
Caradoc sort of gives Davy a sideways look and says, "Well, I mean, I might be able to help with that, but I think nephew here had a little bit too much to drink. What seems to be the problem there, Foreman?"
Well, it's a problem of sorts. Higher ups, they're making their way down here next week. Some big bucks to cook up for the. I was hoping you and maybe a couple others could go out and get some victuals for them.
And Davy perks up. He loves to hunt, and he's holding his musket, and he goes from being like a 2 on the awake scale to an 8. He's just like, oh, hey, Uncle, that sounds like the type of task I can get behind, huh, Emerson? And he just gives his dog a pet, and the dog goes ballistic. He knows what hunting time means. And so, yeah, what do you say? I'm down for that.
Well, Foreman McGrath, not to speak contrary-wise to your wishes, but we got a stand of trees we've been working on. I mean, what's going to happen to those trees if we just go out chasing animals for some fancy nobles with sticks up their collective asses? I mean, let's be honest. They're going to come and go like the wind.
And Pavel sort of kind of snuffles and just goes,
Oh, don't you worry about that. I'll he's down for you.
Well, all right.
And he looks around and says, "Well, I suppose you'll be taking Fergus and Max along with you. I want them to go. They're pretty good out in the wilderness. Also, I don't know. Take Rourke and Bane with you too. They'll be out there to meet you. Go by his cabin up a map. He'll be more than
Rourke
happy.
and Bane, remind me, Foreman. We got so many young bloods in this camp that just sit around drinking all day. I lose track of who's who. Which two were Rourke and Bane again?
Oh, they's ain't young bloods. They older than you. They older than sin.
Really?
Oldest in the camp.
Interesting.
Maybe we don't know them because the old ones never do any work, right, Uncle?
No, you're mistaken there, nephew. It's the young ones that don't do any work. Isn't that right, Pavel? And the dog just kind of growls a little at Dave. Just kind of like, "Rrr. Easy there, Pavel. Easy there. All right, we'll go talk to the supervisor. Nephew, since you are so eager to get going today, why don't you lead the way? My joints is aching this morning."
Yeah, let's go find Max and Fergus.
Oh, we can do that too. Lead the way.
And he would. Emerson would bound off in front of him because he's not the best trained. He'd be looking for Max or Fergus, whichever one he could run into first.
Yeah, it's not hard to find Max or Fergus. They actually both work on the stand, much as you and Caradoc work on the same stand for trees. You walk up to the stand of trees and you see Max and they've got a saw between the two of them, just sawing back and forth across the base of this large cedar tree that they've been trying to fell for the past few days now.
And Davey walks right up to that tree, and he just comes in and he goes, "I got good news for you." And then he puts his hand on the tree, and he goes, "I'm going to take these two away so they can't do any more harm." And he looks to either side, and he goes, "Yeah, I guess it's good news for you, too. You guys can put down the saw. We're going to go find some fun."
Says who?
That is the correct answer right there. Says who?
Says me and the missus, and he holds up his musket. He goes, "She says right here, we're going to have ourselves a good time."
Oh, nephew, your sense of humor is ever delightful. What do you say, Fergus? You ready to have some fun?
Well, I guess. Ain't nothing going on around here in no house.
All right, I suppose.
What exactly is it that the missus say today, huh? What kind of fun are we going to be getting ourselves into?
I didn't want to misspeak, DM. What did you say we were hunting?
You're hunting two. You're basically been tasked with a couple of bucks for dinner for these higher ups that are visiting Slingo camp.
Gotcha. So yeah, he says Well, the missus says that we're going to find ourselves a nice, maybe 6, maybe 8-pointed buck. I don't know, something big. We're going to take it down.
I
I don't see a ring on the missus.
You have to listen real quiet. And he holds the musket up. He's like, what's that? Yep. She says, I'm gonna get the killing shot. Sorry, guys.
I don't see a ring on the missus.
Everybody knows we go together.
Max, your wit, even at this actually it's actually pretty late, but Max, your wit, even at this hour, is ever so sharp. It is a delight to talk to you at any point. I am so glad another sane person is going to be part of this adventure. Maybe you can help me keep my nephew in line. And Fergus, you too.
Killing himself.
Exactly. That is the idea.
I hate hunting with guns. Last time I took down a buck, I had to do it with a knife and mud. It's cowardly, it is. Swear it.
And Davey just kind of looks at him. He's like, knife and mud. Well, best of luck with that. Me and the missus going to stick together.
And he didn't say anything. He just gives you just the meanest fucking look.
And Fergus, or not Fergus, sorry, Caradoc kind of coughs into his hand, but trying not to show that he's laughing. He's kind of like, right, we need to go talk to the supervisor if everyone's done cracking jokes.
And this time, Davey's going to kind of fade back with Fergus towards the end of the group and let his uncle Caradoc take the lead again.
Walk alongside Caradoc.
All right, and Caradoc leads. Pavel sort of like sniffs at Max and sort of like bumps up against her every now and then as they walk to the supervisor's office.
And while they're walking, Davey's just going to take out this little bottle from his inside of his jacket. He's going to kind of shake it at Fergus. And Fergus might see this kind of like slightly brownish colored liquid in there and would probably recognize it from its strong smell if you were to crack the cork.
So
You're drinking that piss again.
And he kind of shoves the cork back on real quick. He's like, nope, no, not drinking nothing back here.
You drinking what now, nephew? And Caradoc sort of looks over his right shoulder as he walks, leading the group along, kind of giving Davey like the biggest, most nastiest stink eye. Just, it's awful.
Okay, he just puts the bottle back in then and kind of hits Fergus on the arm and goes, "These two are no fun."
And Fergus leans over and he goes, I ain't had a drink since me morning coffee.
I'll get you later.
I love this group already. So you make your way to the supervisor's cabin, and it's this low, squat, sort of like wattle sort of hut that's on the outer skirts of like the camp. He certainly doesn't live ostentatiously, but you knock on the door and it's not long before he opens the door for you. And the supervisor, you don't see him as much. You definitely see McGrath more often and talk to him more often. McGrath's an asshole. The supervisor, you have probably talked to him maybe 4 times the entire span of time that you've worked here at Slingo Camp. Stern, pale, looking man. Probably in he's like you, Caradoc. Completely bald, no facial hair, but he has this like constant look of just on his face, like all the time. And he opens the door and says, "Yes, can I help you?"
And a fine morning to you there, supervisor. You're looking hale and hearty as ever, I suppose. How does the morning find you?
Caradoc, it finds me well.
And Caradoc sort of like wipes his nose with the back of his hand, kind of like wipes it on his breeches. So, The foreman told us that we are supposed to be taking, well, besides ourselves, our friends Rourke and Bane on a little hunting trip because we got some of the higher ups that are going to be visiting Slango Camp soon. Supposed to go hunt some bucks or something along those lines. And we were supposed to see you about a map if you got them. You can spare the time. It seems like you're awful busy. He sort of smiles, indicating that he does not believe the supervisor does any work whatsoever.
Map, is it? Where are you planning on heading?
And Caradoc sort of turns to his nephew and he says, Nephew, since you enjoy carousing around the woods with them young blood friends of yours, why don't you tell the supervisor where we're going to be heading today? I can't remember what the foreman said. He chatters on like a, I don't know, drunken mongoose or something. It's too much this early in the morning.
And he kind of rubs his hands together. He's like, I've been holding off on the creek all season. Haven't hit it up yet. Trying to let the let the bucks think it's safe. Think that I don't still run that land. And he kind of giggles to himself. He's just like, yeah, if you got the map for the creek, the one that dumps out near the river, but doesn't quite make it. It's got the rocky shores.
And Caradoc, you're the only one that notices this. As soon as Davy mentions the creek, the supervisor, he gets a sort of glint in his eye, like he just heard something very interesting. And he, just give me a moment. I'll be right back. And he closes the door behind him. And you can clearly hear him like shuffling about in some books inside of his.
Well, I do believe that our dearly beloved supervisor is curious about something going on over by that creek, nephew. Fergus, Max, do you two know anything that might be special about that part of the woods? I've never been out that far myself, honestly.
Would I know?
Give me like either a nature or a history check, whichever is higher for you.
Well, it's the same either way, a 0. That is a 4.
There's a creek there. There's some trees. And it's a place that you've recognized. You recognize that word, creek.
Okay, can I also make a roll for this?
I wouldn't allow that, but I mean, since he asked the both of you, go ahead. Sure.
Okay, what is it that I roll in this game?
D20 primarily.
D20.
16.
Hey, that's plenty. I forgot to mention, guys. There's not going to be different difficulty checks throughout this entire thing. As long as you beat a 15, that's a success. But I was going to say, yeah, you got 16. There's nothing that goes on out in the woods. You've heard of deer that have been spotted out in that area, but out of the ordinary or special about it, as far as what Caradoc is asking about.
So Fergus lifts his left leg and he kind of farts, and he's putting chewing tobacco in his mouth, and he goes, "There's absolutely fuck all going on down by the creek. It's just deer and squirrels and shit."
Well, deer, that's okay, because deer is what we're looking for, Fergus. Remember, stay with us. Big deer, lots of points.
Now, nephew, you got to have some respect for Fergus. He used to be a soldier now. Although Fergus and Caradoc turns to Fergus, I hate to agree with my nephew, but he is right. Deer is exactly what we're looking for. So the creek sounds like an excellent place to start. Good on you, nephew. You did something right for once.
And whenever you said that he's a soldier, he just kind of like gets a glassy-eyed stare for a second, and then towards the end of what you were saying, he goes, "I'd like a bear more."
At that, the hut's door once again swings open, and out steps the supervisor, and he has this yellowed piece of paper in its hand. It's about 8x5, and it looks like he tore it out of a book. It's got one frayed edge along the side, and it's very crumbled and like yellowed. Caradoc. And you look at it, and it looks like some form of topographical map out in the direction that you're going, but there is a like a daubed bit of red paint that's in the form of a broken circle. It's like someone was trying to draw a circle and then stopped, like finish the circle.
Would Caradoc recognize this symbol? Is it some kind of like logging symbol, or is it just an incomplete red circle?
Roll me a religion check.
Ooh. Oh, that's not bad actually. That is a 18.
There's been whisperings about something like this that you've heard throughout your entire life. You can't quite remember everything, but the words "old leech" enter your mind.
Old leech.
Yeah.
Okay. So Caradoc sort of takes the map and he looks at the symbol and he just sort of mutters, and I don't know how close the rest of them are, but he just sort of mutters to himself, "Huh. The old leech. That's interesting. Well, what do you think, Pavel?" And he looks down at the mastiff by his side, and the dog just sort of looks at him and goes, "Woof," like kind of shrugging. He's like, "All right, well, I guess we're heading towards the creek." And he starts to roll up the map, and he tucks it sort of in one of his pockets before turning back to the supervisor, and he says, "So, anything we should be aware of if we head out that way? I mean, I know my nephew is familiar with this, and seems like Fergus is, but what do you know about that area, supervisor? You see everything, you know everything, so enlighten us."
And for the first time in the entire time that you've been in this land camp, you actually see the supervisor smile to himself, and he says, "Decades since we've driven the Gloam back from this area. What's to worry about?"
Interesting. And Caradoc's face sort of slackens a bit. He looks a little somber. He looks his age. Not that he doesn't always look his age. He sort of squints his blue eyes at the supervisor for a second, and then he shrugs and turns to the group, and he's like, "Well, unless the rest of you have some questions, I say we head on out, get us these bucks, and head back and do some actual work. You know, what we're paid for and whatnot."
Fergus says, "I've got to stop back by and grab my sword if you don't mind." He says, "Never walk away from home ahead of your axe and your sword. You can't feel a battle in your bones."
The supervisor pipes up at this, and he says, "Speaking of weapons, stop by Chauncey's on the way out. He's got some toys for you for your trip."
Yeah, as we kind of turn to leave towards Chauncey's, Davey's just going to start, like, once they're out of the supervisor's range of hearing, just start going, "Oh, all-knowing supervisor, Oh, yes, you're so smart. You know so many things. Oh, and then he just goes, Uncle, God, you're such a brown nose.
And Caradoc actually laughs, and you see these like stained, nasty-ass yellowish teeth. Nephew, it pays to know which side your bread is buttered on. I talk all kinds of shit about that supervisor when he's not paying attention, but if I'm talking to the man's face, I will call him the next leader of the Dawn Hammers. Whatever he wants to hear, I'll call him that. Remember, he's the one doling out our pay. You know, another question, actually, we should have mentioned. Do any of you know where to find Rourke and Bane? We were supposed to find them, and the supervisor didn't seem forthcoming.
David would just turn to Max and Fergus and just say, have you seen him?
I ain't seen him, but I'm sure they'll be around here somewhere. Everybody's working this late, this early.
Hmm.
Well, maybe we can catch him at Chauncey's, I guess. All right. And I guess Caradoc will start making his way with Pavel and the rest over towards Chauncey's. Unless anyone else wants to talk to the supervisor.
Well, Max is gonna ask Caradoc a question. What's Old Leech?
What's Old Leech? Oh, and he'll pull the map out and sort of unroll it. He kind of makes a show of it, just like, haha, like, yes, I'm so handy and everything. And then he indicates the red circle, and he's like, it's this symbol up here on the map near the creek, this broken red circle. It made me think of this old story, you know, about Old Leech. Are you familiar? You heard of Old Leech before?
Maybe, but it was probably broken up with drunken slurs.
Yes, I know the feeling. He kind of shoots Davy a look, and then he rolls the map back up. I guess it's just something that we need to keep our eyes out for. But I'm sure as long as you're here, Miss Max, we will be in good hands. Yeah.
Yeah, as long as he and his missus can take care of things.
And with that, I guess we'll keep moving forward.
Yeah, and you make your way over to Chauncey's. Chauncey's is this impromptu stall that popped up out front of the Gamslango camp, sort of like surrounded by this wood palisade on all sides that keeps everyone safe in and keeps all the whatever nasties are outside out of the camp, which, again, it's been decades since you've driven back the Gloam from this area, so more of a retaining wall than anything else. But Chauncey is set up in this stall outside of the gates, right outside, and used to walking up to Chauncey because it's ridiculous. It's decked out in every possible weapon you can ever think of. He's got swords lining the walls. He's got a barrel full of hammers. He's got a selection of crowbars out on the table in front of him. He's just packed to the teeth with and he sees you coming, and Chauncey is this like wide man that like takes up nearly the entire cart himself, and he sees a lot of you coming. He's like, Foreman McGrath said you'd be coming by. I got these for you. And you guys can basically make your selection from the firearm list. Boom, Doc. Just pick whatever you want. You got a pistol, a pepper box, a blunderbuss, a rifle, or a trench shield.
I'll probably go with the blunderbuss.
What's a trench shield?
So basically what a trench shield is, it's basically like this full body shield that you can just plant into the ground right in front of you. You can't use it as a normal shield. You can't just hold it and like spin around it. You have to actually plant it into the ground, and it provides you with half coverage.
Half.
Yeah.
It's a little more of a ranged thing. It's for to stand behind it.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but what's a pepper box? I think I know, but I want to make sure that I know.
Yeah, it's basically a very early revolver. So they couldn't really figure out early on like how to have the separate from the chamber. So it was basically just 6 or 8 different barrels for one gun that you would just rotate and
Right.
fire,
Okay.
rotate and fire.
All right. He's going to choose that. I want a pepper box.
Do you have the link for the weapons? I don't have it.
I put it in the group page.
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yep.
Okay.
And Davy's just going to reach up and grab one of those trench shields. And, there you go. And yeah, he'll grab that and he'll kind of look over to Chauncey, who might be eyeing him a little bit, thinking, you should take yourself with a little more firepower than that. He'll kind of take the trench shield, put it on his back. And he'll just be like, come on, Chauncey. You only need 2 weapons with me. These eyes and this barrel.
Chauncey's just like, huh, yeah.
I always did tell my nephew that he missed his true calling, joining the circus and whatnot with all that japery and tomfoolery. I'll take one of them trench shields as well, though. You can keep your boom sticks, though. Those are for, well, young bloods and fools. Paradox reaches up and sort of very shakily takes one of the trench shields and kind of straps it to his back. Pavel just kind of watching, like, what the hell is he picking up right now? This is way too heavy for him.
Yeah, Caradox, he's like, you look at Caradoc, he's this very crotchety, Geppetto looking man, just with this giant slab of iron on his back.
And Davy just kind of chuckles and goes like, oh, Max, you better grab the other side before he falls over.
Ha ha, nephew. It is to laugh. All right, is there anything else that we need before we leave? Oh, Chauncey, actually, have you seen Rourke and Bane? We've been traipsing around half this damn camp trying to find those boys.
Yeah, I just saw him head out that way towards the creek. You should be able to meet up with him in the next 5 minutes or so. Had a pack mule with him, packed down with all kinds of stuff. Almost my money with my stall and all.
So at this point, Fergus is going to literally run back because he forgot to grab his sword and his shield.
Oh, there he goes.
I will say that boy moves fast.
He's not a boy, Uncle. He served in the dang military. You gotta stop calling everybody boy.
He's about 32 to 34.
He's younger than me, nephew. That's all that counts. All right. I guess we'll wait for him by the gates.
Okay, so it takes, just a few minutes and he comes back and he's got a cavalry shield, an old English shield, and he has an officer's saber.
I never leave home without my baby. She slings this battle axe over her shoulder.
Like I said, you can't feel a battle in your bones.
Caradoc just whistles at the side of Max with this axe on her shoulder and just like, oh God, I'm a married man. All right. We ready to go?
Bye.
Yeah, Uncle, let's get this show on the road.
All right, and I think we head out.
Max, you ready to go, or do you you need to do anything else before we leave? Max?
No.
Okay, cool.
I was just waiting for Fergus to come back.
So yeah, you make your way down the trail up into the woods. The Slango camp itself is actually surrounded by a very, I wouldn't say large, but very sizable, like, wasteland of stumps around the camp. But it's not long until you reach the edge of the forest, and standing there is Rourke and Bane. They are these two types. Like, they look like they live out in the woods. They've got beards that reach down to their knees. They're bent over with age. Rourke is this wiry, silent type, and Bane is this stocky, like, tank of a man. And the young men of the camp have actually taken to calling him Grandpa Moses, just because of how like grandfatherly he is. But yeah, they like, just like Chauncey said, they also have this pack mule with them that is just laden down with all kinds of camping supplies, like anything that you can imagine. They've got it. Rourke doesn't say anything, but as soon as you walk up, Bane says, "I thought we had to go get those bucks ourselves. What the hell are you doing down there?"
Well, you know how these young folk are. You know, they piss and piddle around until there's not an hour left in the day to do a decent day's work. Sorry for keeping you boys, but we're ready to go hunt some varmints and hopefully come back and make sure the supervisor stays off our asses.
Well, why don't you just ask them next time you're having dinner with them, since you guys are such friends?
Nephew, I will smack you across the face. Damn it.
And Bane says, "Well, let's get to it then." And him and Rourke just turn and walk straight into the woods.
Caradoc turns to Pavel and he says, "Pavel, seek!" And the mastiff sort of growls a little, and then he doesn't run past Rourke and Bane, but he's sort of like keeping pace with the pack mule, just sort of sniffing and keeping an eye out.
And Davy says to Emerson, "Go keep an eye on that blind mutt."
All right. So what you four know about Rourke and Bane is that they were veterans of some war. You don't know what war, but what you do know is that there has been no war in recent memory. So they're pretty old. So you're walking along throughout the forest. You're not getting much scent of anything. You walk for hours and hours, and it's actually already getting dark for hours. And according to the map and what Davey knows, the creek is actually like, you won't be able to reach the creek until the next day. So it's coming on time to make camp. What are you guys doing?
So Fergus hasn't been outside of the walls in quite a while, and he's just really been admiring, the scenery and stuff and the beautiful trees and all that going on. But as he begins to see it get dark, he kind of goes up to the front of the group and he says, "No, I hate to question you fellers. I know that you know what you're doing, but are you sure that you brought enough supplies for all of us? You said that you're only planning on the two of you."
And are you saying this to Rourke and Bane?
Yes.
Rourke says nothing. Bane looks up and says, "What are you talking about? It's just the six of us for 2 days. That doesn't take nothing. Got plenty on this pack mule here. It's not like we're going to be killing animals that are made of food. So get over yourself."
So Fergus gets kind of a chill down his spine. He says, Well, do you figure maybe we should be stopping soon? Understand that you fellas practically live out here, but my feet aren't made like yours. I can only go so far.
Don't worry, Princess. We'll just reach over these bluffs right here, and we'll be able to make camp. We want to make our mileage for this day. We want to be able to reach the creek by tomorrow morning, so we're gonna have plenty of time to tomorrow.
And he says, "Don't worry, Princess." And Fergus goes and gets like this confused look on his face and literally stops walking and waits until the others have gone in front of him. He goes, "Fucking Princess, what in the shit?" And then he just starts walking, with everybody else again. He's like cursing under his breath and stuff.
And Davy would just ritualistically, kind of as they're stopping for the night, he would take all of his musket cleaning gear out and kind of put it on the cart. He's not going to start doing it right away, but he's kind of making sure he has it out and ready. And then he starts kind of doing whatever kind of mild preparations would be needed around the campsite. He's familiar with the outdoors, so he would, put down the stake posts, hammer them in, whatever has to be done.
I think Max is going to see if there's any game nearby.
Okay, you want to roll a I guess roll a survival check. Yeah.
I rolled a 1. Oh my gosh, this is terrible.
You're looking up in the tops of the trees, and you're like picking up like bits of dirt and just tasting it. Like you're just doing things. Like you like halfway understand how hunting is done, but no, you don't sense any game nearby.
I shrug and sit by the fire. See if they need any help getting that going.
So did Max just offer to help with the fire?
Yes.
Okay.
She tried to see if there was any game nearby, but she didn't. She didn't sense anything.
So Caradoc would well, first of all, he is exhausted and sort of like breathing heavy, and he takes the trench shield off his back and just sort of slams it into the ground, like because it's been such a burden. And Pavel's just sort of circling the camp for the time being, and he starts trying to get a fire going, and he hears Max. Says, "Oh, your help would be appreciated, Miss Max. My hands are shaking something terrible right now. If you wouldn't mind doing that, I'm going to go ahead and get my bedroll out, though I'll probably end up taking first watch. Or maybe Rourke or Bane will do it." And he sort of wanders off, but he leaves like his tinderbox behind, and he looks back kind of towards the way they came, and he holds up his hand, and he has this sort of like very tarnished silver wedding band around his ring finger, and he sort of like rubs it, and he's like, "Oh boy, Eddie, this is a little bit further out than I've gone before. Have a good night, Edwina." And then he sort of sighs and heads back towards the camp to help Max with the fire if she's still needing any help.
Yeah, Max starts. Is it like snow covered out here?
No, it's actually I would say it's mid-fall.
Right.
I would say there's a chill. I would say there's a chill in the air, but it's not that time of year quite yet.
All right, so I gather up a little clearing for some fire, and I gather up some dead leaves and a bit more tinder, and gather up some wood to burn, and I'm getting it all set up. Should I roll anything for a tinderbox?
No. You easily get the fire started.
Okay.
Yeah, you get the fire started, and Rourke and Bane are getting some thick slices of bacon and like some bread ready for dinner for the night. And Bane pipes up and he says,
What was that? Sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
"Oh, sorry." He said, "Anyone bring a map?"
And upon hearing this, Caradoc like immediately fumbles with the map and pulls it out. He's like, "Oh, there you go. Sorry, I almost forgot I had the damn thing. Here." And he holds it out to, was it Rourke that spoke or Bane that spoke?
It was Bane. Rourke has not said anything the entire time you've been traveling with him.
Got it. Strong silent type.
And yeah, Bane takes it and he studies it, and a look of recognition in his face. And he says, looks familiar. Looks like look, my grandpappy used to show me when I was just a little thing.
And Caradoc sort of leans forward and he says, "Your grandpappy ever tell you stories about old Leech?"
Yeah.
I noticed that that their symbol on the map, the little broken red circle. It's weird. I didn't expect to actually see that on a map. You know, I thought it was just a story. What were your grandpappy's stories like? What did they say?
Tell you the truth, I don't remember much. Like I said, I was just a little thing. Oh, I remember that. That was on the front of the book. It was small, black, like some sort of farmer's almanac or something. My grandfather, he told me like why it was written, but some doctor come to these lands like before anyone ever did. Said he wrote about all he found here, and I don't know. I don't have very fond memories of that book, to tell you the truth. After my grandfather died, she took that book and burnt it. Said it was of the Gloam.
Really? And Caradoc sort of like pulls his ratty cloak a little tighter around himself. He's like,
So you're saying this was some kind of book of witchcraft, gloamcraft, you know, the dark arts and whatnot?
Not exactly. What I remember of the book was that it was some sort of guide to parts unknown, parts not meant to be known.
You think we got anything to worry about?
I don't know. It's been years since the Gloam's been spotted in these parts. And Bane has this sort of like apprehensive look, and he's like looking out into the darkness. They say happenings go on in these woods.
Well, if that is the case, then I'm certainly glad that you and Rourke are here. You know, you two are real hard workers, real mountain men. We need you out here, probably more than anything else. So I guess that's good. I mean, what else can we do except keep an eye out? Speaking of keeping an eye out, he looks around. He's like, "Where the hell's my nephew got off to? Nephew!" Sort of calls out, "Nephew!"
You just hear like a ringing of some bells and like a twang of a wire. He steps back. He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, Uncle. I was practicing some of these newfangled techniques called staying safe through the night." And he kind of gestures his hand. He goes, "I just set a nice little perimeter around. We should hear anything coming. It won't give us too much notice, but should wake us up before it's right on top of us."
and Caradoc sort of glowers and turns to Bane real quick and says,
You know, I told my sister if she had a boy, she needs to make sure that she trains him proper, like I did with Pavel. Clearly, she was a little bit derelict in her duties, I suppose. Newfangled clang-clanging bell nonsense.
Davey's going to say, you could say that. And he's just going to kind of, in a huff, walk over towards Fergus. He's going to be pulling that bottle back out of his jacket. He's going to kind of squat right next to him, just kind of without looking, stick his hand out, hand the bottle over to Fergus, and just kind of start mumbling. Old men think they know everything about the woods. Ain't even been out here in 10 years. I don't even know what he's talking about.
And so Fergus, he takes the bottle and he takes a small taste of it, kind of licks his lips and stuff, and he says, Bane, now, I know it's been about 120 years since your grandpappy told you them stories or whatever the fuck, but you said there's happenings in these woods. Now, what do you mean happenings? And then he takes another little swig of the bottle and passes it back. He says, that's good stuff.
Yeah, and David just takes it back. He takes himself a swig. He just kind of hands it, like sticks it over towards Max to offer it up.
Bane sort of like shakes his head, like sort of like beating off the like just had, and he says, "Oh, there's a passel of ghosts and evil spirits and such. Demons live in holes in the ground, live in the rocks, and sleep inside big trees in the deep forest where the sun don't ever shine."
And Fergus, like, his face quickly goes from being half joking to like, what the shit? And he looks at Bane and he goes, what in the Sam fuck are you talking about? Demons living in holes.
And
I'm gonna get swallowed up by something out here. Didn't nobody tell me I was gonna get swallowed up out here?
And you guys hear a voice. It says, if we're telling ghost stories, I got one." And Rourke actually pipes up for the first time. Been standing out here. He says, "Y'all remember the Child's Tale Rumpelstiltskin? Ordered the miller's wife to spin straw to gold or dye. And a little man, a dwarf, came to her and said he'd do the job if and she promised her firstborn child. And she didn't get her head chopped off."
Davey just kind of sighs and just like, I don't know about all these fairy tales, but Fergus, this can't be the first you're hearing that it's a little dangerous out here. I mean, sure, fellas like me can handle ourselves out in the woods. I mean, it's just what we're raised to do, really, but I imagine it must be a little worrisome for someone who spends most of their day chopping down defenseless little old trees.
A lumberjack with a bleeding heart. Absolutely the most disgusting thing in this world.
And Fergus goes, no, my heart ain't bleeding necessarily. It's just, my people have a feeling for these kinds of things, and I don't take too kindly to thinking about demons jumping out of goddamn holes in the ground.
The only demon you need to worry about, young Fergus, is the demon in that bottle my nephew keeps trying to hide and discreetly shove into your hands. Just be careful now. Don't want to go embarrass yourself in front of Bane and Rourke.
Embarrass yourself in front of Dane and Rourke? How would you do that?
Well, I think Fergus can look to you for an excellent example. Why can't you two be more like Miss Max? She is the model of outdoors woman, I guess. Yeah, outdoors woman. There you go. She would not partake, I'm sure, in any vile substance you handed her way, I'm sure.
Rourke stands and he like makes like boogity boogity noises towards Fergus and says, the king made her his queen and everything, was humpkin bumpkin for a while. Then, of course, along comes baby, and who shows up to collect his due? She convinces him to give her until the dark of the moon to give his name and call off the deal. So being a cantankerous cuss, the fella agrees. So odd, she hasn't a snowball's chance in hell of sussing it out. But that old girl did cotton to the jig. She sent messengers to the four corners of the land, their only mission to gather a list of names. One of them reported a queer sight he'd spied in a deep, dark mountain valley, just like this one here. Saw a mighty fire below, and who danced around that blaze but a pack of demons led by the little gold spinner himself. The dwarf cackled and capered, boasting that his name was Rumpelstiltskin. He was mad as wet hen when the queen turned the tables later on. He stomped a hole in the palace floor and fell into the earth. That was the end of him.
So there you go. That was the end of him. Nothing to worry about.
And as the story was being told, Fergus is like visually leaning back and his eyes are getting bigger and bigger and stuff until the very end. Then he smiles a little bit and he says, well, if we're telling ghost stories, I suppose I can get some sleep since he's dead and all. And he's like looking around kind of.
And Caradoc kind of chuckles and winks at Bane and Rourke, and then he like whistles very softly, just like one whistle. And Fergus, right behind you, you feel this like heavy, warm breathing, just and then Caradoc just says, "Pavel, speak!" And you just hear woof, like right in your ear as this dog barks right in your ear, and Caradoc just starts cackling like this, like Rumpelstiltskin, probably just this like old cackling crazy man.
And Fergus like literally jumps up, like feet first, and he pulls his sword out real quick and he turns around. He goes, "Son of a bitch, why do y'all gotta be treating me like this?"
And Pavel just sort of rolls on his back, like asking Fergus to scratch his belly while Caradoc just laughs his ass off.
And he sheathes his sword and he does a little bit, but kind of half-heartedly. And he's like looking out into the woods as he's like petting him.
Yeah, and you guys sort of carry on like this throughout the night. Rourke actually at one point pulls out a fiddle from the like pack on the back of the mule and starts playing, and him and jig, like classic mountain man style around the fire.
And Emerson howls in tune.
All right. Anyone want to do anything before you settle in for the night?
So Fergus says, I do believe that we should have some sort of a watch, I'm not trying to be too shaken up by your stories and all, but it's out in the dark and we're far away from camp, and it's always a good idea, certainly, to have someone watching out.
So now more seriously at his uncle, David would look over and be like, "Uncle, you think Pablo could take the first one and we could let Emerson take the second?"
And Caradoc sort of thinks about it for a minute and looks over at Max and says, "What do you think, Miss Max? We leave the dogs on watch, or maybe it might be best to have someone who walks on two legs keeping watch at some point?" No offense, Pavel, and the dog sort of gives him a look like, "Yeah, okay."
Maybe one man and one dog.
That sounds reasonable to me. Nephew, why don't you take the first watch since you're so eager?
Nervous Nellies. Yeah, so he would he just kind of snap his fingers towards Emerson, and I imagine he'd basically start walking off into the woods, maybe just 10 or 12 feet, lean up against a nice tree to take his watch. Let them do what they're going to do before going to bed.
And Max makes a comment to Rourke. If you really wanted to scare him, you should have told him the story about Peter and the wolf.
Rourke just kind of like arches an eyebrow.
So who's going to be going second in our happy party here?
Well, it would stand to reason that since I am the only other man with a dog, that I would be taking second watch. I'm fine with that, unless
you want to stay. You want to have the second watch with Pavel here. And Pavel sort of looks up at you, Fergus, and just starts drooling and slobbering a little bit.
I'm not trying to have your dog scare the shit out of me twice in one night. I'd prefer to be closer to the dawn if y'all don't mind, to be honest.
Well, that's fine with me.
All right, so you guys settle into the night, and first watch goes by without incident. Second watch goes by without incident. And who is on third watch?
I think it was me.
Okay, third watch rolls around. You sit up and, sort of like do a perimeter around the camp, and, you take a leak and everything. And so wake up from the urge to like take a leak, and you hear unearthly music drifting out of the forest from the darkness.
And so Fergus, he was a soldier, so as he's going around, he doesn't have his sword drawn, but he's got it like on him. He's walking around with his shield and stuff, and Max wakes up and we start to hear this music. When you say unearthly, can you describe it just a little bit? What do you mean?
What you hear is an orchestra of woodwinds and strings accompanying a choir singing in a foreign tongue you do not recognize.
So, what is Max doing? Because you are awake.
Max is listening intently, and she's trying to get a perception of where this is coming from. Is it just all around us, or?
Roll perception.
Okay. Let's not roll terrible. Okay, that's better. That is a 16.
Okay, yeah. You can't quite pinpoint where it's coming from. It could be in the valley with you. It could be in the next valley over. It's sort of drifting on the wind, but you can tell that it's coming from the direction of the creek.
That's creepy. Yeah, Max is just kind of waiting and watching intently, seeing if anything comes out.
So, Fergus, he goes over to Max and he says, "Do you hear that, or am I going crazy finally?"
No, I hear it too.
What in the devil could that be? I don't understand it. It's like it's some other language or something.
It's got to be some sort of witchcraft.
Oh God, I hope not. I did not come out here for witchcraft in the shite. Oh God, and he leans his head down for a second. He's like pounding against his head, and then he says, "Okay, I'm sorry. Can you stay awake with me, please?"
Sure, it's almost done. I'm usually up around this time anyway.
And
go ahead. Sorry.
And he pulls his pepper box out, and he's got it in his right hand, and he's got his shield in his left hand, and he's like looking around, but he makes an effort. He like puts his shield in front of him where his eyes are just barely looking over it, and he's like holding his gun, and he like is turning his whole body like this, just every which way, trying to see.
Yeah, and at this point, the music is reaching a crescendo. It's just rising in intensity and like just it's reaching a climax at this point.
Yeah, Max is kind of hunkered down next to. Shoot, your name keeps flying out of my head. Fergus?
Yeah, Fergus.
Yeah, she's sitting down next to Fergus with her blunderbuss, and she puts a hand on his shoulder and is like, Stand steady, soldier.
And Fergus, he as the music's getting louder, his hands start shaking on his gun. And can I see anything out in the darkness? Can I see like anything moving at all outside of our light that our fire is casting?
At this point, the fire is actually burned down to low coals. It's
Oh, God.
pitch black. You can roll perception, but I'm going to have you roll at a disadvantage.
Okay, so doesn't that mean that I'll roll twice and take the lowest?
Yes.
Max would stir out the fire if she saw it had gone out.
4.
Yeah, you don't see anything. And at this point, it almost sounds as if the choir, this unearthly like choir speaking in a foreign language, is right next to you. And as soon as you get right next to you, it cuts out. It's completely gone. It stops. It's completely silent out in the woods.
Okay, so it like reaches a crescendo and then it just flat stops.
Yep.
Okay, and whenever it stops, Fergus goes, ah! Like that.
And Max is just like, shh. Listen.
I don't hear nothing.
Is it just dead silence right now?
Dead silence. There's not even any like nightly wood noises. It's dead silent. You probably hear like Rourke or Bane like shuffling in their sleep, but that's it.
So Fergus says, the music killed all the birds. Why can't we hear any birds?
I think they're about as freaked out as we are.
And so Fergus goes over and he goes over to Pavel. That was your dog's name. He goes over to Pavel and he like pokes him with the bottom of his shield and he goes, Pavel, wake up, boy, please.
And so like immediately Pavel just like jumps up and just starts barking like these big, like loud, mastiff barks, just and there's like drool flying everywhere, and he's sort of growling it at Fergus, which of course immediately wakes up Caradoc, who sits up and he's like, oh, what the hell's going on? What is all this? What's wrong with you, boy?
And Fergus like he gets down on his knees. And so, like, his pepper box and his shield are beside him. And he puts his hands out in front of him. And he goes, the music killed the birds.
Stop uttering that nonsense. They didn't kill the birds. They're just quiet.
What is he talking about, Miss Max? Has he been drinking some of my nephew's brew again?
And Davey. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's right. In all likelihood, yes, but I definitely heard what he heard.
Music.
It was a load of crazy, flim-flammy music. Those rich people listen to.
I'll wake up Rourke and Bane and somebody get my nephew. And Caradoc goes over to wake up the mountain men while Davey does his thing.
Yeah, Davey's already waking up from the noise, so he's sitting up now too.
I think it's gone now. It's really quiet, but I don't know. Usually when it gets too quiet, bad things happen.
Hey,
Yep.
Okay.
Davey's just gonna look over and just kind of be looking at all you guys with the sleepy eyes again, and just be like, "What is this about? Killing the birds? What are you talking about?"
Something about music, nephew. Terrible, terrible music. Though I think Miss Max is right. Didn't kill the birds. They're just quiet. Rourke, Bane, wake up.
He's sort of quiet. It's the middle of the night. Birds don't sing at night.
Bane sort of rouses up and he says, "Early start.
Well,
It's still dark out."
That would be wonderful, but I think we got another problem. Fergus, Princess, says that he heard some music, but Miss Max also heard this music before it stopped suddenly. So I'm thinking we might have some kind of I don't know, some kind of spook or whatever out here. We should probably move on as quickly as possible.
It was coming from the creek, the direction of the creek.
Well, shit.
Rourke, he's kind of like this mass of hides and like blankets on the ground. All you see is an eye poking up out of like the hides, and he says, like looking at Fergus, maybe it was that Rumpelstiltskin fella.
I don't
Oh,
think
yeah, yeah.
You go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Sorry.
He says, I don't think Rumpelstiltskin would have sounded like that. I swear the demons was coming up and they was singing to us. They was trying to lure us away or something. It was a siren.
For all we know, it could have been weird fish.
Fish? Fish? You think that fish sing?
I was just kidding, Fergus.
and Fergus, he goes and he picks his shield up and he picks his pepper box up and he's like scratching his head with the top of the barrel, careful not to have his finger on the trigger. But he goes, "Goddamn demons coming out of holes and Rumpelstiltskin and fish and I don't know what to do here." And he just kind of is like flabbergasted at what's happening.
What kind of soldier were you again, boy? Like, were you in like the, I don't even know. Like, what kind of brigade would you be in? Like the bunny brigade? Is that what it is? You had to round up bunnies for the actual soldiers? I mean, what's going on?
And Fergus goes, "Well, there's not a lot of need for a man in cavalry to go do cavalry work whenever there's no wars, is there?" And he goes, "I did a lot of hunting. You know, chasing foxes and such."
Right. That does sound about your speed. All right, we should probably get moving regardless of what the cavalry officer says. We should probably get moving.
And Davy's just grumpy. He's just grabbing his stuff and just birds singing at night. What a bunch of crocker crazy.
And Fergus clears his throat and he, you know, whippoorwills sing at night.
Owls do too. And coyotes.
No more whiskey for you. And then he looks over to Max and just goes, "I don't know what your excuse is." Just kind of shoulders his bag again.
Yeah, Caradoc would start gathering his equipment, sort of looking at Max a little sidelong, but he trusts her and trusts her word, so he's ready to get a move on if everyone else is getting ready.
And Max rolls her eyes at Davy, whatever, him and his missus, and it's dumb dog.
All right, you guys get all packed up for the trail, and it's not a long walk, maybe like 3 hours or so. The sun's up at this point, and the creek is just over the next couple bluffs, and you see it below you. It's this shallow creek that winds down into this valley below, and there's a lot of like beautiful meadows that are like situated along this creek as it goes off into this valley.
Well, this is where things get interesting, everybody. Now, I know you say you've hunted before, Fergus, but I never heard of nobody hunting with mud before. So the way we do things around here is usually someone gets in there real quiet, sits down, tries to wait for one of these fellas to walk on by.
And Fergus says, well, you see, the principle is you find where a deer's walking through, and then you cut a grave out, and then you lay in it. Whenever the deer walks on top of you, you stab him in the heart.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Fergus. It's just that sounds crazy.
It does. You know, nephew, not to question your infallible methods, but we could also use Emerson and Pavel to flush some of the bucks out. Maybe have them lead the animals or force the animals into a place that we choose to go ahead and take them down. Might make things a little faster than just sitting here in the brush like a couple of rabbits.
No appreciation for the beauty of nature. It just says, okay, listen, what if you set up looking left and I set up looking right down the creeks? You send Pavel your way, I'll send Emerson my way. If they find anything, they can drive them back towards us. If I miss mine, you're sure to get it, and vice versa. But don't worry, I'm not going to miss mine.
Well, I certainly hope that you can put your money where your mouth is, your mouth where your money is, whatever that stupid saying is. All right. You know, that's a good idea. Unless Rourke, Bane, you guys have anything to offer, or Miss Max, any other ideas? The sooner we can get this over with, the better.
Maybe try spreading out in groups.
Davy's going to look at the hammer and just be like, what are you going to do with that exactly? It's
actually an axe.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I also have a crossbow and a javelin and a blunderbuss.
He would just kind of like look at you as you're like thinking about your ranged weapon. He'd be like, don't even talk to me about that blunderbuss. We want to be able to eat this.
I wasn't planning on using a blunderbuss. It's too loud.
Yeah, then he just looks over at the crossbow and goes, All right, maybe with those are a little shorter range, but maybe you could close the cricks off for us. Make sure that nothing gets out.
All right.
I just don't want you fellas going too far, because if something comes up on us, I like that axe and I like that sword a lot better against it than my musket.
All right. You're the hunter. Sort of.
All right. Anyone else have any bright ideas apart from laying in a grave and stabbing a deer in the heart? I mean, I like it. I like the enthusiasm. That can be our backup plan's backup plan. How about that? How about that then?
Maybe you can lay in a bush instead.
Miss Max, everything you touch turns to solid gold. I can certainly appreciate that.
Hey, now, it is a legitimate technique used by anthropological finds that we can tell that ancient tribes used to lay in holes in the ground and stab deer in the heart. I promise.
Absolutely. It's just going to take a little too long to dig out a hole, and you don't want to get in that creek. It's probably too cold.
This is you're right. I'm just saying.
And no offense, Fergus, but I don't trust a man that makes up words. What was that one you used? Anthropomological? Like, what is that? Is that some kind of illness? Like, do you have anthropomagy? Is that why you're so freaked out all the time? Is that what's going on?
It's a sickness. I can't help it. It's hereditary.
Well, I'm sorry for your ailment, but I think my nephew's plan and Miss Max's plan makes sense. I think we break off into groups. We can send the dogs in, and they can lead the deer to my position or to my nephew's position, and that's how we'll wrap this up nice and quick.
And Davy's just going to say, and if you are going to hide in the bush, you better get looking for one big enough now.
And what is that supposed to mean, nephew?
Oh, he's just a big feller. I'm just saying. He's going to have to look for a nice-sized bush. It's not going to be hiding behind no little blueberry bush.
That's true. Fergus, you can go with my nephew. Miss Max, you can come with me, or I don't know, where do you want to go, Rourke and Bane? Do you have a preference?
We work best on our own with each other.
Suppose as long as you're together, that's all right. But like my nephew said, I don't think being alone out here is a good idea, especially with, he sort of looks over at Max and Fergus, weird singing and whatnot, or music.
May the best hunter make the shot.
He will.
And Karak sort of looks over at Davey and is like, all right, boy, we'll see. All
right, so basically how I'm going to handle this is that everyone make a survival test. It's going to be like a cumulative effort. So more successes equals like success.
Okay, this is my favored terrain, so I should be doing that with advantage.
Mine as well, ironically.
17.
I rolled a 15.
That's a 19 for Caradoc with advantage.
19?
19.
Okay.
17.
All right, awesome. Very good rolls. So by noon, there are 4 bucks that have been felled and dressed by this point. You 4 actually watch Rourke and Bane in their element. Like, you catch glimpses of them out in the forest, and they're bounding from tree to tree. You don't know what war they were in, but you surmise that it was probably done primarily with guerrilla warfare. They are just like blending in with the forest like seamlessly, and they fell one of the bucks themselves. Let's see. So basically, how I'm going to do this is like, who is partnering up together?
Fergus, Davy, and then Max and Caradoc.
Okay.
And Pavel.
So I'm going to roll for Fergus and Davy. Okay. All right. Fergus and Davy, you fell 2 bucks, and then Caradoc and Max felled 1.
For the rest of that day, whatever anybody is doing, Davey is going to be doing 2 things. 1, rubbing it into his uncle as often as possible that they killed more deer, and 2, being entirely too sweet to his musket.
And whenever he does either of those things, Caradoc just looks over at Miss Max and just says, "This is why my nephew has yet to find a woman to settle down with."
Mm.
Yeah, you 4 are actually in the process of dressing these deer and actually strapping the wrapped meat onto these pack mules. When Rourke and Bane actually spot a 5th buck off in the woods, they surmise that they could probably fit a 5th buck onto this pack mule, and Rourke actually takes a shot and wings the buck. And he curses, and him and Bane actually sprint off into the woods, following the deer.
Can Davy?
And they disappear into the forest.
Could we try to make a shot before they go?
I mean, you could attempt it, sure.
Right. I'm going with my crossbow.
Roll with disadvantage because the deer is bounding into the trees.
Yeah. All right. That is. That is 15.
Yeah, I'll say that you that crossbow actually does sink into like the flank of the deer, but it doesn't kill it.
Darn it.
Davy's going to forego a shot, and he's just going to whistle, and you're going to hear him scream, "Emerson, go get him, boy!" And you're just going to see this tan dog go running into the woods.
Okay, yeah. Emerson bounds along with Rourke and Bane as they disappear into the forest.
Well, we've got no chance of being able to catch up with him, but maybe we can follow the blood from behind. I mean, it was hit twice. Ought to be bleeding quite a bit.
Otherwise, we could wait for them to come back.
Well, if I know my nephew, and I know my nephew,
Caradoc sort of looks over to where Davy's at. He's not going to want to wait, and that silly old dog of his is probably going to get in all kinds of trouble. We should probably take the mule and head out. See if we can catch up with them just to be safe. I have no doubt that they are competent in the forest, but you never know.
All right.
And Ferguson actually leans over to Max and says, "To be honest with you, after what we heard last night, I just want to get away from this damn crick."
Yeah, let's try to get away from here before it gets too dark.
All right. So what are you going to be doing with the pack mule laden down with all of this deer meat?
I'm walking along with it.
Yeah. And Caradoc will walk along on the other side of it, and he'll have Pavel kind of scouting ahead as much as the dog can scout ahead.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's see. Whoever wants to make the roll, make a survival check.
I volunteer as tribute.
Can I assist him?
Please.
Sure. Roll that survival with roll it with a +3.
Okay, so I already have a +3, so should I add an additional?
It'll be +6 then.
Okay. All right, well, I rolled a 17.
17? All right, yeah. So you're following this blood for about an hour. Like this deer went a long way, and you haven't seen any sign, like hide nor hair, of Rourke, Bane, or Emerson. And you're about to give up, and like you're about to start just calling for them, like you're exacerbated and are just going to start calling for them out into the middle of the forest, like possibly scaring off any other like bucks in the area. When you hear 2 gunshots on a bluff above you guys. You can easily keep following the trail and head your way up onto that bluff.
Yeah, maybe quicken the pace a little.
Yeah, Davey would be worried about Emerson and would be moving with a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
I'm going to follow Davey.
And Caradoc will follow along, trying to keep the mule on stable ground as much as possible.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, with that, I think we'll take our first break.
All right.
All right. I'll be right back.
All right. Yep. In 10 minutes, we'll be right back.
Hey everyone. So this is RP Geography channel. I'm playing in this Gloam game, being DM'd by Jonathan Davies. Was really excited. I have a bunch of Gloam games on my channel, and I have another one planned for just after Halloween. So when Jonathan said he'd like to record this, figured my channel would be a good place for it. So we threw it up, and I think it's going really well. It's a fun game, and proud to have it on the channel actually, because there's been some grade A role-playing and interactions going on here. Let me know what you think, if anyone's still watching. It's getting late in most places. It's going on 11 o'clock by me. So let's talk about Gloam, right? So everyone's got their own take on it. I don't know exactly what Jonathan's is. I'm kind of getting it as we go. I really like it. For me, you know, I did this kind of colonial thing as well, because as soon as I heard about the Gloam as sort of being fought by these well-organized Dawnhammers, figured there's probably something less organized out there, and it would be interesting to see what's going on there. And I see, you know, Jonathan thought the same thing, and he's doing an awesome job of doing this lumberjack kind of, I mean, it makes me think of like Paul Bunyan sort of concept, American folklore. Oh, here he is.
You talking shit about me?
No, I'm saying I like your take.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask, what do you guys think? Because like I just went and started talking to my girlfriend, and she was like, "I thought you were playing D&D, not Hunting Simulator." And I'm like, "Well, excuse me."
Ouch. That's harsh. No, I mean, I think it's great. Like I said, it made me think of like Paul Bunyan. Like when I did my colonial setting, what was in my head was the Roanoke, the Salem witch trials,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. But you definitely went, for me, what I see is like a more Boone, Alamo, frontier kind of thing.
Yeah, it's definitely the vibe that I'm going for, because like the short story that I'm basing this off of is very it's like the author, he does Lovecraftian stuff, but he introduces, like, he has like hard-boiled main characters. You know, Lovecraft, he always wrote like scholars as his main characters. Like this dude, he writes his main characters as like hard-boiled detectives and like gritty, like grungy lumberjacks fighting off, like well, not fighting off, like the dark powers, basically. It's pretty good. Like I have the book right here. Like I basically read that whole Rumpelstiltskin bit from this book. It's The Beautiful Thing That Awaits Us All by Laird Barron.
I'm really unfamiliar, like I said, but I mean I'm having a blast. This is loads of fun.
Hey, I'm glad to hear it.
I like the setting. You know, I did know about most of the mechanics and stuff as far as like rolling d20s and stuff. It's kind of coming back, but yeah, I just wanted to say, you know, I've pretty much just played My Frog, but I've played with lots of different GMs, and great job, man.
Appreciate it. Glad to hear it.
You are literally the worst. No, I'm just kidding. No, this is fantastic, man. This is great.
Well, be prepared for sadness, possibly soon to come.
I am so excited.
Depends on how well you guys do coming up, because the characters in the short story did not fare well at all.
I think the biggest thing is a DD of 15 for every roll. I imagine we're not gonna have that good of a time.
Well, yeah, that's something that I took from Hankrin Furnail, Drunkens and Dragons. Like I love his style of DMing so much, but yeah, like I wanted something that was difficult but not unobtainable. If that makes any sense. And you guys are third level characters, so you have like you have plus 4s or 5s in like your main skills anyway. So
Yeah, we'll
it's not.
fail more often than we won't, but we'll still get things done.
Yeah, definitely. And that'll apply to ACs for creatures as well. Like as long as you roll a 15, you're good. You're good to go.
I'm gonna say I think I'm most worried about the dogs because mastiffs have terrible stats. Like most of the ranger companions do not have
Really?
stats. I would not be surprised if there's I guess it would be an old Yeller moment, maybe like Homeward Bound moment. You know what I mean?
Where Shadow falls into a hole and never comes back.
Emerson,
We'll see.
I mean, and you can get armor for your dogs. It's but it's like what 4 times as expensive and how many times as heavy?
Yeah, that's a good point. And plus, I don't know if mastiffs would have armor, you know, if they were just kind of accompanying lumberjacks and huntsmen out in the frontier, you know, but that is a good point, though. I think actually in the monster manual, the mastiff picture is an armored dog, which actually looks really cool.
I think it has like a harness and saddle on it, actually.
Yeah, because sometimes it's a halfling mount.
Or
That's
no,
right. I forgot about that.
Let me ask you guys this question: are you as bothered as I am that gnomes are 2 feet tall? Like when I have players that are gnomes, they need to be 6 inches or a foot tall. That's it.
I don't know. I'm okay with the 2 foot tall because that's about the size of garden gnomes.
True. Maybe 2 feet tall with the hat.
Yeah. But when I think that's small, that's like a brownie or a pixie.
Yeah, sure, but like gnomes are supposed to be weird. They're supposed to be like this weird, like, what are you? What are you doing here? They're supposed to be oddballs, and you know.
There should be like a leprechaun variant for the gnome.
Oh man, a leprechaun player race would be pretty cool, actually, now that I think about it. And I don't know, that'd be like a red cap as a player race. I don't know how I feel about that, actually.
Well, they're magical and they have pots of gold that lure people, and I don't know.
But
it was just a passing idea that went over my head. Like, oh, a gnome leprechaun.
Like super violent? Like, don't they like kill and like kind of crazy and stuff?
Yeah, you could have them like the Leprechaun movie.
Yeah, red caps are actually like really like they're basically serial killers. Basically. Like jeez. if you know the folklore basis for red caps, yes, they're very awful creatures.
Are they called red caps because they always have blood on their cap?
I think so.
Yes.
They like gather in it and they're just like. Yeah.
The folklore is that a red cap is basically a troll that lives in a tower and it like crushes its enemies or poor like passersby by jumping on top of them and crushing them with its iron boots and then dyeing their hats in their blood.
Oh my god. That is the ultimate body slam.
Yeah. They basically Randy Orton you to death.
That would be terrible. Imagine if you had that in Skyrim, where just this giant comes falling from the sky and just instantly kills you. Oh.
You just hear that giant noise and you're like, All right. Are we ready to get going here?
Yar.
Yarp.
Yes.
All right. So, when last we left off, you guys were following Rourke and Bane as they were hunting down their charge, this deer that they had just wounded. You've been searching for them about an hour, and we're about to start calling out for them out in the woods when you hear 2 gunshots on a bluff up ahead of you guys, and you can follow this trail that you're on up to this bluff easily, up to the top of this bluff pretty easily.
I think I'd be out in front. I'm trying to find my dog.
Yeah, I wanted to go second specifically.
Pavel would probably be up with Davy and Fergus, but Caradoc would be probably either left or right side of the pack mule, kind of guiding it, making sure it doesn't, misstep or anything.
And Max is on the other side.
With the pack mule in tow?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. You head up top this bluff, and there's this small clearing at the top of this bluff. It's like a very nice, like quiet meadow with like this tall, standing oak tree right in the center of the clearing, and there's a opening in the trees off to your right, like across the meadow, and you hear a slight like rumbling from that direction, and and the first thing you see is Bane lying in the center of this clearing on his stomach.
So I would.
Man. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, I would just start running, and I probably wouldn't even yell back. I would just speed up when I saw the body and run to it and try to see what's wrong, as I'm sure everybody else is right behind me.
Okay, yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say Fergus is not going to run directly up to the body. I want to stay maybe 30 feet, about 10 yards back, and I actually want to see if I can see anything around that, like a cause, essentially, for him to be in this state. You also said there was a rumbling?
Yeah, there's a slight rumbling, like rushing water through that opening in the trees off to your right. And through that opening in the trees, you can actually see like another valley beyond through that opening in the trees. Since you're like sort of scouting about, roll a perception check for me. Davey,
11.
You run up. What was that?
11.
Okay. Davey, you run up to Bane, and like even before you reach him, you notice a great amount of items strewn about the base of this tall oak tree. They're carts and broken bottles and old articles of clothing strewn about at the base of this tree, all in various ages of weather. There's a cart that looks like it could have been dropped or placed there like yesterday. There's a pot of like old pots and pans there that look like they've been there for hundreds of years. Fergus, as you're scouting about, you don't catch anything like, out of the ordinary, but you do glance out of that opening in the trees, and there is actually a waterfall coming out of an opening in the cliffside below you down into this valley, and you can actually see a trail leading down into the valley, and on the other side of the valley you see a lone tower sticking up out of the trees on the other side of the valley.
Okay. My only other question is, do I still see this blood trail, or is Bane is he in the way of the blood trail that we were following?
I'll say that there is sign of the deer that was here from the blood trail. It appears to go off into one direction, and you search over there, and there actually is what appears to be an overgrown trail that leads off into the woods, and the blood spatter continues in that direction. You're guessing that this overgrown trail connects up to the trail that you spotted in that valley below.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I, just approaching this body immediately, can I tell if it's dead? Just the immediate check of a body.
If it's dead, see if it is dead. This man who you've known for years.
Yes, I'm sorry. If he is dead, if I couldn't remember if it was Bane or Rourke, that's really what it was.
Yes, it's Bane.
Okay.
They are pretty much the same character. Yeah, he's breathing. He has this large goose egg growing on his forehead. He got knocked senseless across his forehead.
So I would kind of shake him a little bit. I would just be like, Bane, what happened? And if he didn't respond because he's unconscious, I would just kind of...
He actually does rouse a bit. He's out of sorts. He's his eyes are fluttering, but he is awake. And he says, Davy, is that you?
Yes.
Max runs over to see if she can help with a medicine check.
All right, go for it.
Oh, they rolled off. That is a 10.
A 10? No, it's a pretty nasty bump. You're guessing that he didn't quite get concussed, but he was close to getting concussed. This is something that he's just going to have to sleep off.
While all this is going on, Caradoc is sort of hanging back by the mule, and but when he sees that Bane has this lump on his head, he sort of looks around and are there any trees nearby, or are we way far out beyond the tree line at this point?
Well, the clearing is surrounded by trees. If you're hanging back with the mule, you are at the tree line.
So then, yeah, he's gonna tie the reins of the mule to a low-hanging branch in one of the trees, and he whistles for Pavel, and the Mastiff comes back to his side, and he walks up to Bane and Davy and Max and Ferguson. Well, this is strange. It's quite a bump he's got there.
Want to throw him on the back of the ass?
I mean, we could, but there's quite a few bucks back there. I'm not sure we have enough room for a man this size.
Well, we had.
I can walk. Quit mothering over me. I can walk.
What happened?
Get up.
Where's my dog?
Davey, roll a d6 for me.
Sorry, I was on mute. That's a 6.
Oh.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
A 6, actually. Yeah. At you saying, "Where's my dog?" You hear these low whimpers from out of the tree line, and Emerson comes limping out of the underbrush.
And I would obviously move towards him immediately. And
Go ahead.
just can I see, is it obvious how badly he's hurt?
Yeah. It looks like someone sliced him up pretty good. He has blood in his mouth, not his own blood, and it looks like whoever he attacked sliced him up pretty good with a hunting knife. It's not fatal, but he is badly wounded.
I'm gonna see if I can help this time.
Okay, before you make that roll, Bane, he's like, me and Rourke, we were like chasing after that buck, and we finally got it, and we started to dress it, and I wasn't paying attention, but I walked into something, and I fell and hit my head, and I was knocked out for a good bit, but I heard Rourke talking to somebody. Two men, they were speaking hateful lack to him. I couldn't understand anything they were saying, but he came up to me and said he'd be right back, and went somewhere with them.
Did you get a look at these men, or you got hit before you could actually get a good look?
I got hit before I could get a look.
That is interesting. Pavel, seek, and Pavel sort of skitters off to stand beside Davy and Emerson. He starts kind of licking Emerson's wounds a little bit, kind of whimpering. As Caradoc looks back at Max and says, "Well, it looked like you wanted to go and help the dog. Why don't you go do that? I'll see about getting Bane situated. Fergus, you want to help me get him up?" And ignoring any of Bane's protests, he starts to heave him up onto his feet.
Fergus would help him. And
okay, and when you help him up, you actually see a snare wrapped around his foot.
Okay, so
what did you roll, Max?
I rolled an 11 this time. I'm just not having a good time.
This is beyond your this is beyond the tools that you have on you right now. You're not really able to help Emerson much. The licks from Pavel seem to help though. Emerson heals up of 2 points. He originally took how many hit points does a Mastiff
Max
have?
is
Max is 8?
9.
9. Okay, yeah. I'll say he took 4 points of damage, and he healed up about 2.
Okay. So it took total of 2.
Yes. Okay. And Fergus, what were you saying?
So was it me that noticed the snare, or was it oh damn, I forgot your name.
I'll say the both of you noticed it.
Caradoc. Okay, so Fergus goes, "Oi, hold on. Maybe we should cut this off of him. Is it just like a rope snare? Like somebody would put down for rabbits or squirrels or something?"
Yeah, it seems to be a very fine twine, so that it would have been easily hidden within the grass. It seems to have been what tripped him.
Okay. All right. So Fergus kind of bends down, and the only cutting tool I really have on me that other than an axe is my sword. So he pulls his sword out, and he uses the base close to his hand to cut the twine.
Yeah,
and
you easily do so.
He looks at everybody and just kind of says around, there was a snare here. Who do you think would be trapping and this far from camp? I saw a tower and I saw a valley, but it's really, who would live all the way out here, especially with the Gloam being so close by?
Whoever those 2 men are.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's the same folk that tripped Bane and hurt Emerson. You said you saw a tower? What did the tower look like?
What did the tower look like? You just told me that I saw a tower.
So, yeah, the tower, it seemed to be you couldn't quite make out what it was made out of, but it was definitely made out of shaped, cut bricks. It had these, slit windows, going along all sides of it, And on the left side of each window of this tower, there was a black broken circle on the left of each window.
Okay, so Fergus says, seems to be made out of some kind of stone. There was some kind of weird witch symbols all over it. You remember you were saying something about a circle on the map or something? Well, it wasn't red, but there was a circle up on the tower on all the windows. They're real suspicious looking now that I'm thinking about it, actually. In all the excitement, I didn't think to say anything to anybody, but, it seems kind of pertinent now.
That does seem pertinent. Good eye, Fergus. And Caradoc sort of looks at Bane, and he's kind of like holding him up a little bit with Fergus. Bane, how do you feel about staying here with the pack mule and the bucks? We should probably try and find Rourke, maybe these men that he's been talking to, especially if they had something to do with tripping you and dog. And like for maybe the first time since since you've embarked on this journey, you hear this, like, there's a slight edge to Caradoc's voice when he's talking about Emerson, like, how dare this son of a bitch hurt my nephew's dog, pretty much, which, I mean, normally he's picking on Davey, but this is clearly not the case. You think you can muster that, Bane? I mean, you took a pretty nasty knock, but what do you say?
Like, you're helping Bane up, and he sort of, like, at the suggestion of this, he sort of shakes off your grasp and grips his musket in both of his hands, and he says, "They took my boy. I don't know what they did. I don't even know if they're the same people who tripped me. But they took Rourke. I'm not sitting idly by while they're doing whatever's to him. I'm going with you."
Forget the damn card, Uncle. Forget it. It doesn't matter. We got to go get Rourke. And I want a little bit of payback. And he's kind of standing up, walking away from Emerson, who's kind of still limping a little bit.
Seems a shame for all that work to go to waste, but I suppose you're right, nephew. All right, so we're going to this tower then. We should probably think of some kind of plan as far as how we're going to be approaching the location specified by our good friend Fergus. Any thoughts?
Well, this actually reminds me of an old joke I heard from some soldiers. It's probably not going to help, but usually it goes, knock, knock, who's there? We ask the questions, and you put an axe through their head.
It sounds like Miss Max wants to go first. I mean, that's fine with me unless anybody else has a better idea.
I was just joking, since this really sucks.
Yeah, this is certainly a strange situation, that's for sure.
I'm all for what Miss Max is saying. I say we go put some arrows in some people, axes in heads, do what we gotta do. They're not friendly to us, that's for sure. And he looks over at Bane, just kind of gestures and looks at his dog.
Now, folks, so one thing I would like to say is Bane could have very well tripped on a regular snare. I know that the dog was hurt, but I'm just trying to say that maybe we shouldn't go rushing into some man's house who might have a gun on the other side of a door,
Then why is all this junk here? All this leftover stuff. Perhaps they've stopped travelers before and killed them too.
That is a fair point.
Could be some kind of bandit camp, or maybe they use the tower as their kind of base of operations. That symbol is, Caradoc sort of shifts a little. That symbol is mighty disquieting, though. Makes me think that maybe there's some kind of witch or sorcerer in there we might have to contend with. You never know. Sometimes folk Oh, they go a bit queer when they're too far away from civilization. No offense, Bane.
All right, so what's the plan here, guys?
All right, let's approach carefully in case there's any more snares, I guess.
Oh, that's a good point. We should look out for traps on the way. If these people are unfriendly types, maybe we should expect some sort of a confrontation. Keep your eyes open and your feet light.
I can, if you let me lead the way, I've never been surprised, not once. And I can move just as fast as you without being spotted. Just give me 20 feet or so, and I can warn you if anything bad's up ahead.
I'll bring up the rear with Bane. I mean, he's no offense, friend, but you're probably going to be a little slow after taking that bump to the head. But Pavel, if you're willing, Pavel could go with you, nephew. And I don't know how you think Emerson's going to hold up, but he could stay in the back with me.
I'd say Emerson will be all right. I have a few remedies for what ails him.
All right, so it sounds like Davey out front, Miss Max, and then Fergus, myself, Bane, and Pavel. Anything else?
You don't mind, Miss Max. I'd like to go second. I could never forgive my honor if I let a lady go before me into danger.
Never heard of ladies first?
But I also have a shield and you don't.
But she also has an axe, a big one, and you don't.
Fair point. Okay, if you want to go second, you can go second. I won't fight you.
All right, so you guys sort of Fergus. He actually leads you towards the overgrown trail that he saw, and Davey, you go out ahead of front of everybody. Roll an investigation check for me.
Real quick before you get too far, Caradoc does run up to the front and just kind of grabs Davy's shoulder and just says, "Be careful, nephew," and goes to the back of the group.
Are we leaving the ass here, or are we taking it with us?
We're leaving it here for now.
Maybe be sure that we tie it to a tree, and I just kind of take the reins and tie it up to make sure.
I already did that, princess. Don't you worry about it.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. Sorry.
Did you ask me to roll the survival check?
The investigation check.
Oh, investigation. Okay, so I have a 0 in investigation, so it's going to be a flat 14.
You're specifically looking for traps, so.
Okay.
Could Caradoc kind of be keeping an eye out for any movements, possibly?
Oh, no.
Roll perception for me.
Trying to see, do I get advantage on intelligence or just wisdom? Oh, I do. I have advantage on intelligence checks. I get to roll once.
Awesome.
That's good because my perception was awful. So it was perception you wanted me to roll, right?
Yes.
Flat 18 then.
18,
Yep,
awesome.
with the advantage. Forgot about that.
19 for Caradoc.
Okay, Caradoc, you catch the normal glimpse of a rabbit or a hare bounding across the trail in front of you, like a bird flitting through the air. Nothing out of the ordinary. And you guys are bounding along this this trail, and you quickly figure out, oh, this is a dried up lake bed or a riverbed. This is a Russian river. At some point, you're actually having to crouch down and climb down these steep steps that were probably at one time small waterfalls, and you're just descending down into this valley. And Davey, you don't actually find any traps, but you get to this fork in the trail, one leading back up into the top of the valley, and one fork going off to the right and towards that tower. But in the fork, there is a fallen cedar tree. And it doesn't take much of investigate an eye to notice a broken circle carved into the bark of the tree, and it seemed to have been one time like daubed with this red paint that has since absorbed itself into the bark of the tree.
So yeah, so I would kind of jog back to the party's position as they're coming closer to me, and when I saw them, I would look towards my uncle first, and I would say, that symbol that you said you saw on the map, I think it's carved into the tree. We're definitely on the right path, but there's a fork, so we're gonna have a decision to make. And I would just kind of walk along with them, I assume, just keeping pace now.
Well, which fork led to the tower? I'm assuming that's where we need to go.
And so would I have been able to tell which fork went to the tower, or could I check now? Some sort of
Yeah, the one forking off to the right, the one going deeper into the valley towards the tower.
Okay.
Yeah, imagine that this trail is skirting one side of the tower of the valley, and the tower is on the other side of the valley.
Okay.
So the trail heading off to the right down into the valley would lead to the tower.
Okay, then I would just kind of like gesture that with my hand. I'd be like, this one over here to the right.
All right, well, I think that's the way we go. I mean, there's no reason to go any other route. Shortest and most direct way is usually the best.
And I would turn to go, but I would just I'd stop for a second, and I would take 3 berries out of my pocket that I had been kind of gathering as we went, and I would give them to my uncle and say, these will give you a little boost if you need it. I have a bad feeling.
I do too, but I greatly appreciate that, nephew. And he takes the berries and kind of puts them in his breeches pockets.
All right, cool. Caradoc, as you guys are headed down the right fork, you sort of eye that fallen cedar tree with the red circle emblazoned on it, and you, because of your high passive perception, you're 15, you notice there's a door cut into that cedar tree. There's like the circle, and then there's like this jagged outline carved into the tree. Like it's barely noticeable, but it's there.
Okay. Upon seeing this, Caradoc sort of lets out this like low kind of like this like little trill of a whistle to get everyone's attention, and then sort of like just wordlessly just kind of gestures them over. And then once everyone's kind of gathered, he points to the door and he just quietly says, Pavel, sniff. And Pavel's just going to kind of go up and just sniff at it. Would he, I mean, I can roll a survival check or wisdom check, something to just see what he smells.
I wouldn't have you roll anything for that. He like instantly his hackles raise and he like backs away from the door like whimpering.
Easy boy. Well, that's never a good sign. Caradoc looks over his shoulder and says, Ms. Max or Fergus, would either of you like to maybe pop this open? Let's see what's inside here.
Seems like the kind of place they were talking about the demons jumping out from. Are you sure that we should go inside this door? It's in a fucking tree.
That symbol means something, possibly something, I don't know. He kind of shudders a bit. Gloam related. If that is the case, then I think we should know about it instead of leaving it behind us to creep up on us when we're not expecting nothing.
Go ahead and open it up.
Miss Max, if you're worried your spirit's failing a bit, I will go first, but I'll allow you to make the decision here. Do you want to go in, or do you want me to go in?
I'll go in first.
Okay, well, you're braver so than I. And Fergus is going to put his pepper box in his previously open right hand. He says, I'll try and watch for you. I promise.
Open the door.
Okay, yeah. Caradoc points out the outline of the door to you, and it's not hard to find the catch for the door. And you've noticed that it's actually like attached with hinges made out of like sinew. And you pop open the door, and it's pitch black inside. You can't see anything. But then something shifts in the darkness, a darker darkness. This tree is full of these black writhing worms.
I
The
shoot with
worms.
my blunderbuss.
Okay, before you do that, you see these like the worms have faces. They're staring back at you. I need you to roll a wisdom save.
Oh man. Roll big. Alright. Wisdom save.
And was Max the only one looking into the door?
17.
I mean, I guess if Caradoc pointed it out, he probably would have been looking too, and actually so would Pavel, more than likely.
Okay. Those who are looking, I need you all to roll wisdom saves.
Ugh. All right.
She asked me to open the door, so I would assume that I was not able to look in.
Yeah, you're like behind the door.
So that's a 13 for Caradoc. It's not great. And a 9 for Pavel, even worse.
Okay. All right. Was that everyone who was looking? Those three individuals? All right. So Max, you managed to stave off whatever was trying to wash over you, and you fire your blunderbuss. I'm not going to make you roll anything. You fire your blunderbuss into the darkness of the tree, but you aren't able to see any sort of effect from the darkness in the tree when Fergus slams the door shut. Caradoc and Pavel, you two are stricken blind by the sight of these worms, these writhing worms. Everybody, you begin to feel the ground rumbling. The entire valley is rumbling beneath you. You all look up, and an eclipse has taken over the sun. The sun is just this ring of fire in the sky surrounding this black hole. And what do you do?
So Fergus, upon hearing the blunderbuss go off and slamming the door, he goes, "What in the hell were you shooting at? What was in there?
You don't want to know. Let's move.
What? Why is it getting dark? What's going on?"
We need to
And,
take cover somewhere.
And you hear just like all of a sudden like this whimpering, confused whimpering, like and Pavel is like he's like taking steps in one direction and then like backing up, and you realize there's like this milky foam across or milky whiteness across his eyes, and Caradoc is just sort of standing still looking at where the door was before Fergus closed it. He just quietly whispers, "I can't fucking see. I can't fucking see."
Oh, shit.
Starts like hyperventilating, like
Uncle.
sweating, like shaking. She's like, nephew, I can't fucking see.
Stay calm.
Reach
Stay calm. We're going to take cover. You guide him. I'm going to pick up the dog. Come here, Pavel. Come here.
And Pavel sort of like growls a little scared, but then when he hears Miss Max's voice, he kind of goes limp and lets her pick him up as Caradoc sort of like leans on Dave, and he's like, nephew, I can't fucking see, nephew. I can't. What happened? There were those things with the faces, and I can't see. I can't.
I don't know what you saw, Uncle. I don't know what you saw. I don't know what this is.
Let's just get out of this area now.
What was in there? And I'm saying that as we're walking, I would assume that Miss Max has led us because she's being rather pushy that we need to get out of here. Did you begin walking in a direction?
Yeah. Which way are you? Which way are you going?
Onward towards the tower, trying to get out of this riverbed.
Okay. Yeah. The eclipse and the rumbling in the ground don't last for long. It lasts about 4 minutes total, and it's not long after that that the blindness for Caradoc and Pavel wears off. It's in stages, but it wears off. But that image of what was in the tree is burned into your sight.
So does that mean, so like, for example, if he was to like close his eyes or something, he would like see the worms with the faces kind of writhing in front of him, that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's like when you stare at the sun and you can still see the sun on the backs of your eyelids when you close your eyes.
Okay. And so he sort of, Pavel sort of blinks and just starts licking Miss Max's face, just like big old sloppy dog licks. And Caradoc sort of releases his grip on Davy and says, oh, I think it passed, but oh gods. And he sort of like starts rubbing his wedding band, like just like nervous tick levels of just rubbing this band, like, oh gods, Edwina, what the fuck have I gotten myself into? You best lead the way, nephew. And he's just like visibly shaken, the most uncertain and probably terrified you've ever seen him as he sort of staggers along side the rest of the group.
Yeah, absolutely.
What did you see in there?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You go ahead. Yep.
He sort of like his head just snaps over to Fergus, and like there's this stricken look on his face. He's like, "They was worms, princess. Worms with fucking people faces. I ain't never seen the like in all my days. Don't ask me again." And then he sort of turns his attention forward.
Yeah.
Were you going to say something?
No, I'm just agreeing with Saradoc.
Okay. So Fergus, he stops for a half a step or so and goes, "Worms with people faces that make you go blind." He just goes, "Shit." And he catches up after like the half a step and he goes, maybe we should go back. You ever think that maybe we should just leave him there? I mean, he seems kind of fucked if there are worms with people faces and strangers in the forest. And I mean, really. He looks over at what was the old man's name? Bane?
Yeah, Bane.
Yeah, and he looks over at Bane and he says, I mean, come on. I know he's your friend and all, but they're demons.
Bane whirls around and he, let's see. Yeah. He clocks you in the face.
Do I take any damage from this?
Yeah, you take 3 damage.
Damn, he's a spry old fella, ain't he?
Yeah.
Okay. So
and do you fall?
That's according. Are we on flat land or going uphill?
I say it's a bit of a steep hill, like you're going uphill.
Then yeah, I would assume that I would fall, just being fucking clocked out of nowhere.
Yeah, and he like points a big meaty finger in your face. Like, this is a stocky old man. He's like wider than he is tall, and he just points this like sausage in your face and says, "Don't you ever fucking try to leave him here. Don't you ever fucking do that, boy." And he stands and like he continues onward towards the tower.
And
I kind of pause and look at Caradoc.
Got something on your mind, Miss Max? And like his face is still like pale and his hands are visibly shaking still. You saw them too, didn't you?
I was right in front.
We'll talk about this when Rourke is safe. We need to move. Like you said, let's just keep going. Quick question, DM. I'm sorry. So there's still the eclipse thing going on. The sun is still blotted out by whatever this is?
No, good question. That has actually passed too, and you're like,
Gotcha.
I've never seen an eclipse move that fast in your mind.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so,
All right. So how are you guys approaching the tower?
I got knocked down, so I'd assume I'd be last now.
Yes.
I think I would still be out in front, but not as far. Like I was ranging about 20, 25 feet out in front of everyone before. Now I think I'd be closer to like 15. Bull shaking.
Caradoc and Pavel would probably, after letting go of Davy and the blindness passing, they'd probably have made their way to the back again with Bane. So they'd be in the rear, probably in front of Bane and Fergus, I would think.
All right. So you make your way down this trail, and you see the. Oh yeah. Where's Max? Where's Max in this order?
She's right behind Davy,
Okay. Yeah.
and she's reloading her blunderbuss.
Of course. Yeah. So you make your way towards the tower, and it's not long until you see that it's not just the tower. There's a small village surrounding the tower, and you see people moving about. You see these women in very archaic clothing walking around doing like chores and like normal like town sort of like duties that they would do. It's sort of like so imagine you guys are in like 19th century clothing. They're in 18th century clothing. Like they're in clothing that is a century out of style. And you're not exactly like moving stealthy, so they look up and they see you, and like just nonchalantly they drop whatever they're doing and walk deeper into the town, out of sight. They're not in a panic or anything, just like, oh, it's Mr. Johnson coming down the street. Better walk away.
So Fergus is actually going to call after them, and he just, "Hi! Hi!" Nothing. No reactions whatsoever.
No reaction. No whatsoever.
I don't think they're listening, big fella.
And so Fergus, he didn't like wipe the blood off his lip. But so he's sitting there and he's like scratching his face and he goes, "Well, that was awfully weird." And he says, I don't really think that it might be such a good idea to just go traipsing through their town like that.
Well, certainly not if you're going to be shouting at them. Maybe we should try and be a little more sneaky, as it were.
Where is the tower in relation of the town? Is it in the center? Is it in the side furthest from us, closest? What?
So imagine like there's a low stone wall sort of skirting the like outskirts of the town. Imagine it's like the shape of an oval. Imagine that the tower is situated on one side of that oval, like not closest to you, but on the other end of the oval from you, if that makes any sense. Cool. And there's this trail that you're walking on leads straight through a gate in the town. This sort of like low wood gate.
Well, and I should be closest to Max at this point. I will kind of lean back and just say, Max, I think I might have made a mistake. This might not be such a great idea.
It feels like there's something wrong.
None of that looked right. They walked away, they weren't rushing. I mean, I'm sure it's not every day you see a bunch of well-armed people coming out of the woods.
I don't know what it is, but I got a bad feeling in my gut.
If we're gonna go in, do you think going straight up this road is the best course of action, or might you have a better plan than that? Because I'm not used to storming castles.
Neither am I. I'm just used to chasing elves away.
Well, your uncle said that possibly we should be sneaking up. But to be honest with you, I mean, everybody's already seen us. I don't know how sneaky we can be from this point. We are outside the walls, and I suppose if we sneak inside the walls and they don't see us, then that does make sense. But I'm just saying.
We could climb over the walls. Maybe me and my nephew could climb over the walls while you and Miss Max and maybe Pa will go through the front.
And then what? Do we
Well,
just
we might be able to
search through every house in town until we find Rourke?
Well, I'm thinking if this is like the fairy tales, he's probably in the tower somewhere. I'm thinking you three walk through the front gate, walk along the path. Me and Davey can keep you aware of what's going on if there's any enemies heading towards you. That sort of thing. Scout ahead.
All right.
Normally I'd laugh if this was like a fairy tale, but just about everything about this seems like a fairy tale. Seems like a good enough plan to me.
Like a fucking nightmare. All right, we should climb over the walls, I guess. So is it a low wall around the town or more of a higher?
Yeah, I should have explained it a bit better. It is a low stone wall. It only comes up to about your waist. It's not like this huge wall that surrounds the town. It's like English countryside type wall.
Gotcha.
Wait, I'm sorry. Are we going in and then coming back?
What do you mean?
I'm saying I just might have missed that part. Are we scouting ahead and they're following behind us, or are we going in and reconning?
The idea, yes, would be that we would scout ahead and they'd be following behind us.
Excellent.
That way we can give them a heads up whenever something nasty comes our way.
Excellent. Yeah. All right. So, do you need stealth checks?
Yeah, go ahead and give me a stealth check. Both of you.
That's an 8 for Caradoc because of the scale mail he's wearing.
12.
Yeah. So, what are Emerson and Pavel doing?
Pavel's going to be going through the front with Miss Max and Fergus.
Okay.
I'm going to keep Emerson with me this time, and he's going to just kind of like, I'm going to put my knee out. He's just going to kind of bounce off my knee over this low wall.
Okay. Yeah. Despite his earlier wounds that you sort of patched up now, he like effortlessly bounds over the wall without a sound. The two of you though, you're laden down with a lot of weapons and armors and stuff, so you're rattling the entire time. Better to keep your stealth than to ruin it. You sneak along in between houses through the town, and there's about a dozen small houses in this town, along with a tower and a large longhouse type structure, like a meeting hall. And out front, in front of these large open oaken doors, there's this matronly type woman just standing there. She was expecting you, looking right at you too.
All right. Wait, Caradoc and Davy, or me and Fergus?
Yeah, Caradoc and Davy. They got there before you did. You'll be following up within the next minute or so, the next few minutes.
I would look over at my uncle and say, I think we fucked up.
What was your first clue, boy?
Well, she's looking right at, and then he'd kind of realize he's being sarcastic and be like, hey, come on, it's not, God damn it, we're in trouble. They kind of start looking around. He's getting a little sweaty. This is weird.
Caradoc sort of looks at the lady and is just grateful that she is a person and not a worm with a lady face, and just says, "So, you just gonna stare at us, or you gonna say something?"
So have any of you seen it yet?
Yes.
Oh God.
No, I haven't.
The original.
Well,
I've
Yes.
seen both.
okay. So for those of you who've seen it, do you remember the way that Pennywise spoke? How it was almost like he was having trouble speaking human words.
Yeah.
This is the way that woman speaks. She's like, "Hello, strangers, welcome." And she holds her arms open out before her.
Caradoc sort of like lays his hand on the haft of his hand axe and says, "And where exactly are you welcoming us to? What is this place where the people just turn and walk away when guests approach the gates?"
Dear gentlemen, ye have nothing to fear. Be at peace.
Does Emerson, is he reacting at all to this?
He's definitely not having a fun time. He's like sort of like behind you, like behind your legs, like just sort of like crouched down with his hackles raised. He's not making a sound.
Easy boy. Easy.
And then Max and Fergus, this is about the point when you two walk up.
Just before on our way over there, I would just like to kind of say whether there's a response or not to Bane. Fergus says, "I didn't mean no disrespect to you, and I know I deserve that sock in the teeth, but just, dying in the woods from fucking worms and shit doesn't seem like the way that I want my life to end. I just want you to understand it's nothing against you or your friend, and I'm sorry." And that's all he says of it, unless there, is a...
He says, "Boy, there's one thing I've learned in life. Learn to shut up when there's no need for anything to be said."
And Fergus, he just nods.
As the other group enters, is it like a square that we've kind of entered with the longhouse and the tower, or is it just just another street in the village?
Let's see. There are, I guess you could call it a square. There's like some like low growing trees right in the center of town with like this statue in the center of town. You can't quite get a good look at it, but there's a statue and a bench, and you catch a glimpse of something in the trees, like a black bear sleeping, or maybe like a big raccoon or something, and you let your eyes dart back towards it, and it's gone, whatever it was that was there.
So as the other group kind of enters this area and Pavel sees Caradoc, he immediately like bounds over, though he kind of like stops halfway to stare at this matronly woman, and then he's just sort of slinks the rest of the way, just like Emerson. He's clearly picking up that something isn't right. And Caradoc looks at the matron and says, "If there's one thing I've learned, it's that when my dog is afraid or angry, right, something's not right with you, woman. So I suggest you let us pass to the tower, or there's going to be trouble."
She smiles at this and was like, there will be time to meet the master. Wait here for the men to return with your friend. Please, be at peace."
Davy's gonna sling his shield off his back and just slam it into the ground in front of him so that it covers Emerson as well. And just kind of kind of lean on it for a second and just look over to his uncle and say, well, should we just be at peace, relax, take it easy?
And Caradoc kind of smiles as he unslings his longbow and he pulls out an arrow and knocks it and he says, "Yes, nephew, I think we should be at peace." And then he's going to fire the arrow at the matron.
You do this, and like before this ever happened, she sort of made like one final gesture towards the bench in the center of town, like at the foot of the statue, and you get a better look at it now. And it's a statue of a figure in robes, two children of equally indeterminate sex crouched at its feet. The statue is defaced by weather and green mold. One grotesquely elongated hand stretches forth as if to part a curtain to reveal some dark mystery. The children's necks are cruelly bent, tongues distended, spines humped and exposed as if flayed by a butcher's knife. The larger figure's dangling hand caressed their bowed heads, and that's when the arrow sinks into her chest. Roll damage.
All right. Ugh. That is 4 points of piercing damage, min damage.
All right, 4 points of damage. All right, yeah. You instantly like kill her. She like falls to the ground like with this. You hit her with an arrow, right?
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, she instantly falls dead to the ground with this arrow sticking up out of her chest. And at that, the doors to the meeting hall behind her shut behind her, and you hear the unmistakable sound of like a wooden bar closing behind the doors, like across them from the inside.
Well, that's interesting.
Davy would grab his shield and pull it up out of the ground and start walking towards the door, like to get in like a straight line with it to see what he can see.
Of the meeting
Yeah.
hall? Okay, yeah, so you're going to try and look through the cracks in the door?
Yeah, essentially just kind of like in a straight line to the door to just like get a look. Are there any? I doubt there's any windows, but you know, if there's any.
Yeah, there are no windows here. Roll a perception with disadvantage.
I am so sorry.
Oh no, don't worry about it.
My internet just conked out.
Yeah, no. Caradoc just killed this matron
Oh, wow.
with
What'd
a
she
single
do?
arrow.
12.
She was creepy.
All right.
12?
12 on the perception.
Yeah, it's pitch black in here. Like you can see maybe like some low coals in like what looks to be a fireplace across from you, but other than that, you can't see much else.
Okay, with his musket out, he's gonna kind of, he's gonna put the shield back on his back, and he's gonna have his musket out. He's gonna kind of get close to the door. He's gonna say, "Fergus, the door. Max, all hands."
Right behind you.
So Fergus actually is while he was looking through, I was just waiting for my turn to speak. He wants to see if this lady has anything on her person.
Yeah, you search her, and there is a meat cleaver on her, like this ancient, like huge thing that has like a handle that's way too long, and like the blade is gigantic and like sharpened to like a razor thin edge. Like she was prepared for the worst. But other than that, you don't find much else on her.
Okay, so
You do when you're searching her body, you notice that she is heavily pregnant.
Oh,
Like you guys instantly like assume that she was just huge. She is heavily pregnant.
Oh, God.
So Fergus takes this thing out of, her clothing and just kind of throws it down on the ground. And he just says, "Be at fucking peace." And
I will say, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but when you guys noticed those other women that were that sort of like walked away from you as you approached, you remember you were like, they were also heavily pregnant, like all three of them that we saw.
okay.
And then you're like,
there's
there's no children running around.
Caradoc looks over at Miss Max and Ferguson, just says, "Open this fucking door."
And Ferguson does so. So you said that the door was like barred, right?
Yes, they're like, you heard the unmistakable sound of like a bar slamming behind the door.
Okay, so I've got to try to break this door down, pretty much.
Okay, yeah. What are you breaking the door down with?
I would think that my first instinct would be to actually look in my immediate area and see if there's anything large around me, and if not, shit, man. Yeah, I was just thinking that maybe like I could use the cleaver somehow, because I don't want to ruin my sword or my shield.
Max
Yeah,
has
sure,
a giant battle axe.
Yeah, I was about to say Max has a giant battle axe, so you definitely get her going in on that.
Maybe it's just the women in there. But okay, a door's a door.
I'm not going to have you roll to hit. It's a door. It's not going to like move out of the way of your swing. So just roll damage.
Alright, let's see. That is 1d8 plus 4. That is a 10. And I stick my head through the hole and say, "Here's Johnny!"
Yeah, you do absolutely that, because you blast a huge hole through this door with one swing. Yeah, and you're easily able to like reach in and like lift the bar up off the door to the side. Do you go in?
Alright. What's inside?
Okay, you're the first to go in. So you walk in, and before you're able to get a good look about the place, let's see. You hear a screech off to your right, and a woman comes out of the darkness, heavily pregnant, wielding another one of these cleavers, like going for your shoulder. But fortunately, she just misses, and she's there before you.
Oh, otherwise I have my danger sense.
That's right.
Should we roll initiative?
Well, I mean, yeah. Unless Max is taking like a reaction to this.
That's true.
Other than dodging, she's a little surprised. Why did we kill the old woman again?
She was creepy.
She was super creepy.
She said the menfolk were coming back and the master we would meet later.
Sounds like some kind of coven or something.
I don't know. Max is just gonna step back and close the door. Sorry.
All right. If you guys want, you can roll initiative.
There's just
For
angry
this.
pregnant women and their guys. There's nothing.
What do we roll for initiative?
You roll a d20 plus your dexterity modifier.
That is a 5.
9.
Let's see. Seems that Caradoc and Pavel will be going first. Let's see. And we got Davy. We got the woman. Fergus. And finally, Max. And Davy, I'll have Emerson on your turn as well. I forgot about that.
Is Bane going to be involved in this at all, or is he just kind of hanging back?
Oh, I completely forgot about Bane. I'll just tack him onto the end there. The problem with NPCs.
You know.
All right, sir. Caradoc.
All right, so Caradoc sort of admitting to himself that really, I mean, he shot this woman, and yeah, she was creepy and unnatural, and this whole place stinks of witchcraft. But he's going to try and take a bit more of a diplomatic approach. So first, he turns to Pavel and he says, "Pavel, defend." And so the dog basically moves in front of him, which that's a free action basically for rangers at this level. They can move their animals; they just can't attack without using that ranger's action. So Pavel sort of positions himself between Caradoc and the woman. Caradoc is going to knock another arrow. He's not going to fire, though, and he goes up to sort of close-ish to this woman, but not super close, and is like, "All right, I'm giving you a chance. What the fuck is going on in here? What is this?"
Yeah, and as you say that, the woman sort of gives one of those Pennywise grins and just looks over to the other side of the meeting hall. And there you see Rourke in a sitting position on the floor, both of his arms chained to the ceiling. And there's other things. There's 2 long purple strands of entrails coming out of his stomach, wrapped into an eye bolt in the ceiling.
So after seeing that, I mean, I figured talking to her is my action, but I guess I'll just have Caradoc ready that arrow as soon as he sees it. He's like, "All right, this ends now," and that's going to end his turn. So you got Pavel in between him and the lady, and then him back there with an arrow ready to go. His next turn.
Okay. Davey, your go. With Emerson. Don't forget about Emerson.
Yep. So the door is closed. There's the hole in the door, I imagine.
Oh, wait, Caradoc probably opened that to go in.
Right. Okay. So
I was joking, right?
So that door is really not a barrier. So can I see anything other than Rourke at the end of the hall? Is it just him and these chains, or is there anybody else?
There actually appears to be a trap door of some sort behind him, set into the floor.
Okay. So I'm going to move myself over to get a decent view at the woman that's inside.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to tell Emerson to get her.
Nice.
And he's going to lunge at her and try to take a bite at her leg. And that is not a great roll. So that is 11. So that's not going to hit.
11, yeah, no, it's not going to hit, unfortunately. So that's your turn, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yes. All right. So it's the woman's go, and Caradoc is actually out front. So she's going to raise her cleaver and again go for that shoulder move.
Well, so technically Pavel is between the woman and Caradoc. I mean, if she wants to move around, that's fine. Would he get some kind of op attack off of that? Not to be super rules lawyer or anything, but just out of curiosity.
No, I think actually she would go for Pavel if he's out front between you and her. But unfortunately, she only rolled a 6, so I don't think she hits anything.
Nice. Yeah, Pavel just kind of jumps out of the way and starts snapping at her and growling.
Yeah.
Not to be grindy with it, but Emerson does get reactions for free.
Oh, really?
So if she attacks next to him, he should be able to get a attack of opportunity.
Yeah, go for it.
That's a better roll. 14, 19.
Yeah, that hits. Roll damage.
Okay, and she needs to roll a strength saving throw as well.
Strength saving throw. She rolled a 16.
Okay, so that's a 5 on damage, and she passes the saving throw. So nothing happens with that.
Okay. Okay. All right, so that's that. Go Fergus.
So Fergus goes in through the open door, and
Mhm.
seeing the scene here, he goes, "He's fucking dead!" And I want to try and shoot at the woman, because she came out right towards the dog, towards Pobble.
Yes, let's see.
So
So
they're still in the room. Now, the one question I do have before I undertake this action, because I'm unfamiliar with the rules, is there a chance I'm going to accidentally shoot one of my comrades?
not unless you roll a 1.
Okay. All right. Then, yeah, I'll try that.
All right, so you're going to be rolling a d20 plus your dexterity modifier plus your proficiency bonus, I believe.
11.
11. Unfortunately, you miss. The ball exits your pepper box and embeds itself in the door frame.
Just for the future, I think actually he can roll strength, and strength is his higher stat. So if he wants to. Oh wait, I'm sorry for the revolver. No, never mind. I apologize. I was thinking of his sword.
Yeah. Yeah. As far as the firearms go, I think the only one that uses strength is the blunderbuss.
Yep, totally.
Oh, really?
Alright.
Then I added the wrong modifier earlier with the worms.
All right, it's Max. It's your go.
How far away is she from me?
You're in back, so I'll say 15 feet, maybe 10, 15 feet.
Okay, then I'm gonna use my charging feat. And let's see. I am going to hit her with my battle axe and
Okay.
charge.
Yeah. You sort of bustle through everyone, charging with your battle axe towards her.
And I rolled a, let's see, 16.
Oh yeah, that hits. Roll damage.
All right, and with my charging ability, I get a +5 to my damage.
You're going to kill her with that +5, but just roll your damage anyway.
All right, let's see. That is a D8. All right, 11 + 5, so 16.
Yeah, you triple kill her. You slice her across the front and just cave her chest in, and she does one of those old western spins when she dies, where she just spins like a top and just falls to the ground. And she is dispatched.
Well, gentlemen, since we found Rourke, I guess we'll be heading back.
Well, I don't know about that, Miss Max. That was nicely done, by the way. We should at least go see what happened to him. I mean, his guts are hanging out all over the place. We probably want to go see maybe what did it. I mean, maybe it was these women, maybe it's something else.
And Davey would just kind of look over towards Bane and just look back at his uncle and be like, "X-nay on the guts say."
Yeah.
Karen, go ahead.
I was going to say that Fergus, the first thing that he was going to do is go over and see if there's a pulse.
When you approach Rourke,
Davey would. I'm sorry. Just before he did that, Davey would put his hand on him and just be like, "Can I just take a quick glance around real quick?" He's just looking to make sure he's not triggering any traps around their friend.
Yeah, go ahead and roll an investigation.
Yeah, so you put your hand on him as he starts walking. He goes, "Oh, I didn't even think of it."
So that's going to be a 17.
17. Yeah, there does not seem to be any traps in this room.
Oh, sorry, I'm a little paranoid. Sorry there.
No,
Got
it's
reason to be.
much rather wait a second than burst into flames or some shit. And so then Fergus is gonna go over and see if there's a pulse.
Yeah, before you even manage to get your hand close to his neck, his eyes sort of loll in his skull, and he just looks up at you and just nods as if to say hello.
Okay, so he looks at me like he's moving.
Yes, he's definitely still alive, but there's no coming back from this.
Huh.
Fergus, he looks beyond help.
Do you have any last words or wishes?
Rourke just looks up at you and says, "Shut up, Fergus."
Okay, somebody put him out of his misery, please.
Caradoc kind of gestures for Bane to come up, and he's like, "I'm sorry, Bane, but I think since you knew him best, might be the only proper thing to have you go ahead and send him to the hereafter. Send him to the gods."
Yeah, Bane actually hasn't been able to get a look at this yet. So as soon as he enters the door, he sees Rourke, and his drains from his face, and he just walks up to Rourke and is like, "What'd they do to you, Part?" And Rourke just kind of looks up and says, "Don't go into the tower. Don't go into the tower." And Baines looks down at Rourke, his eyes still wide, you can see the whites of his eyes, and he just pulls a pistol from his belt and puts it up against Rourke's forehead and pulls the trigger. Rourke.
So how about
Safe travels, Rourke. Safe travels wherever you do go.
Emery lets out a cry at the gunshot.
Yeah, speaking of that, at the gunshot, you hear some yelps from underneath that trap door behind Rourke.
Oh, fuck.
I'm gonna open it.
Of course he is.
Just slightly. Just slightly. I'm
right,
not gonna
you-
swing the whole thing open.
You slightly open it and nothing happens, so you just fling it up the rest of the way, and you look down, and it's a small cellar with about 15 young women, packed below there, all heavily pregnant. They're all cowering away from you in the darkness of the cellar.
So Fergus is a little surprised by this, and he points his pepper box back out, and it's kind of shaking. He goes, "Do y'all have those same fucking clavers?"
None of them, it's almost as if they don't seem to understand what you're saying. They just see this this strange wild man just pointing this strange device at them,
So
speaking a language that they don't understand.
What's down there, Fergus?
yeah, that's Fergus turns around. And he goes, "Y'all have to come see this. There's a bunch of pregnant lasses down here, and they seem scared out of their minds."
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Are there any rooms attached to the room that we are in other than the room below us?
No, it just seems to be one large
Okay.
hall, basically.
I just want to make sure we weren't going to get snuck up upon.
Snuck uponst.
Snuck up on us. Caradoc, after seeing what's down there, just without even like saying anything, just slams the door shut. He says, "All right, we need to talk about this. What's going on here?" He sort of pauses. I don't think, I don't know. These women could be just like the one out there inviting us to meet the master and to be at peace, which that rankles. You know, something's wrong here. And I know that went into the tower. I'm thinking that's at the heart of whatever this is. Maybe we can kill whatever is responsible for this or talk to it. Maybe set these young women free. This isn't right.
Judging by what he did to Rourke, I say we kill him and don't ask any questions.
I was thinking the same thing.
Because the only peace we're getting is if we rest in peace. Look at him.
Yeah, disemboweling is not a good way to go. But we should all agree to this. Caradoc glances over at Davy. What do you say, nephew?
Oh, this is, well, I'm used to knowing what goes on out in the woods, and this is not what I'm used to seeing out here. I'm behind you. All of you, whatever you decide.
Fergus?
Most days I'd call myself a coward, but I gotta admit, if there's one cause to fight for, it seems to be this in here. I'm behind you.
And lastly, Caradoc looks at Bane and he says, Bane, I'm sorry for your loss. I know that Rourke meant a lot to you. The problem is we can't necessarily trust these young women to just sit idly by while we potentially attack their master. Would you be willing to stay here? Someone's got to hold the door.
Yeah, Bane is still standing there holding his gun out before him at the limp body of Rourke. Like, his head is slumped, Rourke, but because his arms are chained to the ceiling, he's just sort of dangling there, and Bane is still holding the gun out for him. Like, he's not shaking. He's like rock solid, and like you can still see the whites of his eyes, and he just says, "I'm burning this whole place to the fucking ground."
Now, hold on a minute there. We don't know if these young women had any say in this. I should have given the one outside more of a chance, but something's going on here, something evil. It's up to us to try and stop it.
They're all a part of this. They're all a part of this.
Oh, come on, Bane, you're losing your shit. Keep it together. Get all your shit and put it together.
Losing my shit? I don't know if you're seeing the same thing I'm seeing, but I see my best friend dressed up like a stuck pig right in front of me.
We killed them hags that done it.
That's true.
What if it's the whole fucking town?
We don't know what's going on here, Bane. You want to have that innocent blood on your hands? No, I certainly don't.
Just know this. The first sign of things going south for us, I'm burning this whole place to the ground.
That's fair.
And he sort of like puts his gun back in his belt, and like he actually has this like old woodsman's axe out now. Like, he's had it in his pack this entire time, but he's actually taken it out now. And he looks like Jack Nicholson from The Shining, like standing there, just like completely wide-eyed holding this axe. Just like, I guess I'm behind you fellas.
And kind of seeing that he is still having difficulties, which is understandable. Caradoc takes off his wedding band and he says, Bane, I want you to listen to me. Look me in the eye. If something happens and we don't make it out of here, I want you to take this back to Slango camp and give this to Edwina. You understand?
You gonna do this for me?
And who are you saying this to?
To Bane.
Uh,
Trying to keep it level somewhat.
he looks up to you and says, I don't think none of us are getting out of this. I've seen this kind of situation before. People don't get out of this sort of thing alive. This is a blood pact here.
What is that?
This is to the end. We've come across something we weren't meant to. In that moment, when I had to kill Rourke, it all came flooding back. We're not getting out of this.
I see.
Not the same, anyway. not like we used to be.
What do I need to roll to have Caradoc punch Bane in the face?
Roll an unarmed attack.
Okay.
Just strength plus your, I don't know. Yeah, strength plus your proficiency.
Make sure you put your ring back on.
Yeah, do that. He puts his ring back on. He's like, I see, and then he just tries to clock him. So it's a D20 plus strength, you said, or
plus strength plus your proficiency.
Got it. Yeah, that's not great. That is 9.
9. Yeah, you go to clock him and you sort of whiff. There's just this imperceptible he just backs up just a little bit, and he walks out the door.
Shit.
Out back into the square.
As he's walking out, Fergus is he says just loud enough so hopefully Bane can hear him. He says, "Now, if you've seen a situation like this before, doesn't that mean that you had to have walked away from it?" I ain't saying, but I'm just saying.
Bane says, Bane says, you're right there, but just take this into consideration. I used to have 5 fingers on this hand, and he holds up his left hand, and he's missing 2 fingers.
And Fergus, his eyes just get big. And he doesn't even say anything. He's just his arms fall down to his sides and he goes and just sighs real heavily.
And Bane walks out the front door and he sort of looks out across the valley. And you guys had noticed this when you walked up, but there are these kind of tilled fields out beyond the wall of the town, down in the valley. And it's starting to get dark out. And he just looks out across the fields and he says, "Here they come."
What?
Look.
I look.
And you look out across the field and you see about a dozen lantern lights just swinging across the fields coming towards the town.
Shit, we need to get moving. If we're going to the tower, now's the time.
Yep.
Yeah, that must be those. Oh man, let's go.
All right, you guys stride up to the door of the tower, and it's barred from the inside, just as the meeting hall would have been. But Caradoc, as you're walking up, you see something out of the corner of your eye. The tails of a coat disappearing behind the side of a house, and then another one, and another one. And then you realize, shit. It was a diversion. The lantern lights, they're surrounding you.
Oh, fuck. Caradoc puts his ring back on and then says, we were tricked. Those lanterns weren't actually their men. Their menfolk are here now. And he pulls out
he actually gets his trench shield and sets it down in front of him. And he says, "Pavel, defend!" And the dog moves out in front of the shield, and that's what he's going to do. Back to the door, I guess.
Let's head into the tower. It's more defensible.
Max, the
You do
axe,
that.
hurry.
Davey would slam down his shield next to yours and take a position right next to you.
And you get closer to the tower, and it bends at weird angles. You notice now. It was like imperceptible from far off, but now that you're closer, you're like, this thing shouldn't be standing. This isn't right. Okay, so you two are hunkering down. Max, what were you doing?
Oh, I was trying to suggest we take to the tower in order to get some better cover.
Right.
But if nobody else is moving, I'm gonna stand with them.
And
No, we went up to the tower, but
Yes.
remember the door is barred.
I'm
So-
gonna bust the door down.
all right. So everyone roll initiative.
God dang.
All right, that is a 9.
$22.
Ooh.
You said we had our dexterity proficiency, right? Or our dexterity modifier, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. 22.
22.
Not that it's going to be a whole lot of help.
All right, so that's Bane there. Then Davy and Emerson. And then, all right. So Davy, your go. You're hunkering down, and you see 3 men like stride out from around a building. 2 of them are wielding pitchforks. One of them is holding one of the biggest blunderbusses you've ever seen. It looks ancient. Like this thing is going to explode in his hands if he tries to fire it.
So as a free action, I'm just going to call...
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. They are all wearing black coats and black top hats.
So the first thing I'm going to do is call Emerson back behind the shield at the side of that blunderbuss. And I'm going to take my musket finally and like kind of really take my time lining up the shot. And I'm going to aim at the individual carrying the huge blunderbuss.
Okay.
So he's a 15 plus 1 modifiers. My rifle is a 7, so that's a 22.
Oh yeah, you hit.
And that does a 10. So that's going to be 7 damage, 7 piercing damage, and 3 fire damage. So yeah, for the first time since taking out at least one of those deers earlier, I get to use my rifle, and I lower it, and I take my time, and I give what I hope is a nice shot right at the center of this main target.
And I apologize. How much damage were you rolling?
Sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
And 3 fire.
All right, yeah. So that kills him instantly. Like you actually, it's funny. You actually managed to hit the powder charge of this blunderbuss, exploding it in his hands, and it actually like lights him up in a blaze, and it actually jumps from him like a few embers to like some thatch roofing on the building next to him.
Nice, and that wraps up my turn. I will just kind of look over to my uncle expectingly.
All right, that's Fergus's turn now.
So, Fergus is actually going to take a hand axe from my belt and try to get the door started for Max.
Okay, yeah, you don't need to roll. Just roll damage.
Sorry, I actually okay. 1d6 plus 5. 10.
Yeah, you managed to make a sizable hole in this door, not enough to get inside to move the bar, but it's you got it started pretty good.
Okay, so Fergus, knocks this hole in the door and says, Max, let us in for the love of God.
All right, then it is Bane's turn, and Bane he's going to go berserk. He's going to grip his axe and just charge straight on at these men with the pitchforks. And he's going to roll, and he got an 11, unfortunately, so he whiffs. So he missed, so it goes to Max.
All right. Max goes into a rage as a bonus action, and she swings her axe down on this freaking door.
Okay, roll damage.
All right. By the way, how far away was I from the door before I moved closer?
You were within 5 feet.
Okay, I was wondering if I could do my charge. All right, but all right, battle axe. That is a 5.
5 damage. All right. Yeah, you widen the hole started by Fergus, but still you need to chop it a bit further to be able to get inside. You can sort of see inside, and it's black within the chapel. There's no light within this place.
That's all I can do.
Yeah. Caradoc.
So after seeing Davy's excellent shot, he looks over at Davy and he says, "Nicely done, nephew. Let's see if I can repeat the trick." And he's going to drop his hand axe, pull out his longbow, knock an arrow, and shoot at the man with the blunderbuss is dead, right? So there's just 2 more.
Yeah, he's sort of got like engulfed in this blaze and is sort of just lying in a smoldering pile on the ground.
Okay, so he's going to aim at one of the 2 that are still up and let loose with an arrow. Ugh, that's an 11 to hit.
Yeah, you miss. The arrow sort of just embeds itself in a wall behind them.
Okay, and then he's going to whistle for Pavel just in case to come back behind the trench shield. So he's going to duck back down beneath the trench shields, and Pavel's going to come back around as well.
All right. Caradoc, but your passive perception, your eyes flick up, and you see a cave mouth sort of overlooking the town, and like a trail leading up to it.
Okay.
All right. It goes back to Davy. I don't know if Rory's still available or not.
It might be.
Nope, I'm
here.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so Davy is just going to actually spend his next action turn reloading his musket.
Okay, cool.
So basically, you see him take out the rod, and he starts, pouring the powder in from the packet and jamming the ball down the rifle barrel, and getting his rifle ready for his next shot.
Yeah. Awesome. So that's Davey. Emerson goes back to Bane. He, like, wait, did those men ever attack? No, they didn't. So
No, the men never went.
that's my fault. I don't have them marked down. So they're actually going to take their attack against Bane before he makes his attack.
Yeah, I wasn't
So-
sure on that.
Yeah, that's my fault. One of them misses with his pitchfork. He goes to, like, for a gut shot for Bane, but he scrapes him. And the other one gets a 22. So he skewers Bane in the chest with his pitchfork, hitting Bane for 7 damage. All right. Now it goes to Bane. With this pitchfork embedded in his chest, he's going to raise his axe and bring it down on this fool's head. Oh, and he misses. Like, it's too much exertion for him. He can't manage to do it. He's a stuck pig. He's draining blood as we speak. All right, it goes to Max.
Wait, it's already my turn. All right.
Yes.
Okay, I am now in rage mode, and I am going to. Is the hole big enough for me to flip the thing open, or?
Okay, Fergus, we'll have your turn go after Max's. Guys, I'm awful with initiative. Just ignore me.
Sure.
Yeah. So Max, go ahead. We'll have Fergus go after you.
I was just gonna flip open the door. Is the hole big enough yet, or do I need a hit?
It needs to be chopped a little bit further. You try and reach the bar, but you can barely reach it, so you need to chop it just a bit more.
All right, now I have my rage bonus, so this is gonna be great. Do I just roll damage again, or?
Yeah, roll damage.
Okay, 7. Let's see. That'll be 9.
9 damage. Yeah, you managed to bust the door open. You can now reach the bar. And then it goes
Alright.
to Fergus.
So we can reach the bar, and Bane is getting forked out there, right?
Yes.
How? I don't know if you can answer this in one combat turn, but how does Bane look? Does he look like like he's gonna die if he gets forked 1 or 2 good times?
I mean, if he takes another hit, like the one that he just took, it's possible that he could be felled.
No, I don't think if he looks that bad, I don't think Fergus would charge in there. I think Fergus is gonna open the door.
All right, you move the bar and fling the door open, and there's a dark void in front of you.
So Fergus, I'm gonna put my axe away and draw my sword before I don't want to go in first. He just kind of sees the dark void there, and his eyes get big, and he, like I said, puts the axe away and draws his sword and just says, "Damn, it's dark."
Max says, "Light a torch."
All right. Oh, go ahead.
I'm seeing if I have any torches. You guys go ahead.
Yeah. Let's see. So the Caradoc.
All right. So after hearing the sound of Max and Fergus hacking away at this door, and then finally opening the door, Caradoc takes a moment. He's gonna use his action to kind of heave the trench shield up and put it back on his back, and then he says, "All right, we need to get in there now. Either that, or," and then he points to where he saw the trail with that cave leading up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's worth our time, but maybe once we deal with whatever's in this tower, we can escape and hide in there. But I think the tower's our best bet. We're not going to get past those men before they get to us like they're getting to Bane. Pavel, here. And so Pavel's going to move sort of next to Fergus, just sort of looking in the door, and Caradoc is going to, I guess, turn towards the door, but he's not going to move towards it yet.
Right. Right, so that's Davey. Oh, he's not here. Never mind. Let's see. In that case, we'll go to Fergus. Oh, wait.
Oh, he's here. He goes.
Yeah. Let's see.
Actually, your turn.
Yeah, Davey, it's your go.
Oh, sorry. So
you're
yeah,
good.
the door's open behind me. I have my musket loaded again, though. I'm not sure what I missed. So can I attack the figure that was attacking Bane?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Okay. So yeah, so with my action, I'm going to attack this guy, and that's going to be that's over a 20 with my modifier. So that should.
Oh yeah, that's a hit.
And that's going to be for. So that's going to be 13 piercing and 2 fire.
All right, yeah, you decimate the dude that had skewered Bane. You like blow part of his head off, and his top hat goes flying.
Nice, and I'm going to reach down and grab the trench shield again, pull it up out of the ground with my free action, just throw it on my back.
Awesome.
Did everybody else move in, or I missed that?
No, you guys are just standing there right now.
Okay, so I would just kind of shuffle like I would be like as if I was going to move with them wherever they go.
Yep. All right, Fergus, it's your go.
So Fergus is going to crouch down and light a torch. Is that an action?
Yeah, lighting a torch is an action.
Okay. So Fergus, he goes down and he lights a torch, and he says to the group, "Somebody else can carry it. I'm going to have my sword and shield. However, we need to understand that if we go in this tower, we might not come out. Maybe the cave should go first. There might not be a second."
Sorry, maybe the what should go first?
The cave.
The only thing is the cave I saw, we'd have to go back through the village, probably back over the walls, try and go ahead and get to that cave, the trail leading to the cave. I don't think we'd be able to do that. I think the cave is our hiding place once we deal with whatever's in this town.
You insist. I said I'd stay behind you. That's my turn.
All right, yeah. Let's see. I'll have the men go. I forgot about him again. So as soon as the one has his head blown off by Davy, the other one who was assaulting Bane sees this and runs off into the village. He was scared off by this. He wasn't expecting you four to be so heavily armed, and he's going to run off into the village. You guys can see the swinging lantern lights are getting very close to the village by now. And then it's going to go to Fergus. Oh, sorry, no, not Fergus. Max. Yeah, Max. Your go.
Max takes the torch from Fergus.
Yeah, there you go.
Goes in and steps inside.
Okay, you three watch as Max steps inside and disappears into the darkness.
I'm sorry, I had movement. I was saying I'll go with them wherever they. Basically, I was saying I'll hold my movement and just follow whoever goes in first. So I would just, if it's okay, like to go with Max.
Okay, so I think you can only hold an action. I don't think you can hold a movement, but I'll let you do that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, don't Yeah. That's fine. Go ahead. Go for it. Yeah, and Caradoc, you and Fergus watch as Davy follows inside with Emerson in tow.
So the longbow has a range of 150 feet. Is the guy who's fleeing within 150 feet?
Sure, I'll say he's still in sight within 150 feet.
Okay, so as a free action, Caradoc is going to pick up his hand axe, put it back on his belt. And he's going to take a breath, knock an arrow, and he's going to try and nail this guy before he can, obviously the men with the lanterns know we're here, but no reason to give them any more advanced ideas of what we're capable of. Oh, that'll definitely hit. That's a 24 to hit.
Yeah, that hits. Roll damage.
And that is 10 points of piercing damage. So he just knocks an arrow and lets it loose.
One shot. Fergus, you're the only one that sees this. You watch as this dude gets, like, lobotomized by this arrow. Like, it goes straight through his head and, like, out the other side, still going. And he just, like, sort of trips over his own feet as he's flying through the air from this hit and just falls face flat on the ground.
And Caradoc sort of grunts in satisfaction, like, huh. And then he claps Fergus on the shoulder and he says, "Remember, Fergus, the only time that a man can be brave is when he's terrified. And this is one of those moments." And then he says, "Pavel, come." And then him and Pavel go into the darkness after Davy and Emerson.
All right, yeah, Fergus, you watch as Caradoc enters into the tower, disappearing in the darkness, and you're the only one left out here. The fire that had spread from that blunderbuss blast is spreading. It's jumping from rooftop to rooftop in this town.
So does this tower look flammable?
It's made out of this heavy stone. So you're guessing no.
Okay. Bane is still alive, correct? Out here with me?
He's kneeling on the ground at this point with this pitchfork still skewered in his chest. He's pouring blood all over the place.
I'm gonna walk over and I'm gonna shoot Bane in the head.
All right. Bane hears you coming, and
blank.
yeah, Bane hears you coming and half expects you to be like another one of these villagers, and he sort of like wheels around like brandishing this huge like Bowie knife, but he sees it's you brandishing your pepper box, and he sort of softens a bit, and he says, "Looks like it's the end of the trail for me, pard."
So sorry. And he just shoots him.
Yeah, Bane collapses to the ground on his side with this pitchfork still embedded in his chest.
And so Fergus goes over to the door and calls inside. "Can anybody hear me?"
Yes, Fergus, get in here.
Well, can they?
No, hold on. No, there's no reply.
Okay.
You don't even hear an echo.
I don't even hear an echo. Okay, so Fergus is actually not immediately going to go inside. So essentially what I'm doing here is I'm waiting to see with my back. I'm like a half a step in front of this door. But he didn't hear anything, and he's very legitimately thinking they might all be dead right now.
Yeah.
So he's just gonna wait. If you want to cut to them, I mean that's fine, or if you want to tell me what the next thing that occurs, but it's up to you.
I mean, you're standing before this black void with this burning village around you, and you look, and like those lantern lights that you saw like bobbing across this field are right at the town gates, and you see the crowd, and it's about 20 men.
Oh, so these are people. Okay.
Yes.
So Fergus
again, they didn't seem to expect you to be so heavily armed, which is why they only sent 3 guys after you.
Right. And so Fergus he's looking ahead, and then he looks behind, and then he looks ahead, and he goes, Fuck, we should have ran when we could. And then he just goes in the tower.
All right. So each of you are absolutely alone. Caradoc and Davy, you're the only ones that have like animal companions, so your animal companions are with you, but each of you are absolutely and totally alone in this dark void. It's some form of tunnel. You see darkness ahead of you, except for a little pinpoint of light right ahead of you. Max, you're the one that had the torch. It's giving off no light whatsoever. It's maybe lighting up your arm a bit, but the flame is just like completely engulfed by this black void. Do you continue ahead?
Fuck.
I see if I can step back out.
You turn to like go back the other way. Black void with that same pinpoint of light. on the other end of the tunnel behind you.
I say hello.
Silence. The air is very musty and like close here. Like you can feel contained. There's no airflow through here.
I start walking forward.
Okay. Do the rest of you do the same?
Yeah, Caradoc kind of looks around for a minute, sort of squares his shoulders, even though his hands are shaking really badly, and he looks at Pavel and he says, "Come on, Pavel. This is another walk through the woods at night." And he just starts heading towards the distant point of light.
Fergus is actually going to once again put his sword in his shield hand, pull his pepper box out, and he's going to fire into the, like, above him.
Above him?
Above him.
Yeah, you fire, and like again, there's no echo to it. There's no sort of like reverberation from it. But you do hear the impact, and there is a scatter of dirt on your head.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's the only thing I wanted to do other than walk forward to see if there was a roof there.
Okay, yeah. And Davey, will you be doing the same?
Yeah, me and Emerson are going to continue forward towards that point of light.
All right, yeah. You continue forward, and you walk, and you walk, and you walk, and the pinpoint of light is not getting any bigger. You walk, and you walk, and you walk for what feels like days in this tunnel. I'm sorry, what was that?
No, my kid pulled my cord out of the computer with his toe, so I was checking to make sure my sound was working.
Gotcha. It's not until what feels like the third day that the pinpoint of light starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger until you realize, oh, it's a doorway. You found a doorway. And then you get closer and closer. And there's a scene outside of the doorway, and it looks familiar, but you can't quite tell what it is. Like it's familiar but different at the same time. You get closer and closer. That's the same village ahead of you. But it's all burned to the ground. It's all ashes and charred wood and people going through the ashes and picking out the bodies of their dead and putting them in a big pile and scavenging whatever they can out of the rubble. Do you continue forward?
Caradoc is going to knock an arrow on his longbow, sort of breathing heavily, and he's going to have Pavel move out in front of him, and yeah, they're gonna move forward.
All right. What about the rest of you?
Yeah, Fergus is going a little perturbed, maybe a little funny in the head, and just at being in this blackness alone for so long, and he pulls his sword, and as soon as he can make out what's going on out there, he just says, "Fuck it," and starts running towards the door.
Okay.
Yeah, that is what Max does as well. It's just like, fuck it. Fuck everything. Fuck them. I am just going to chop them down. I wanted to chop down trees today, but no, we had to go hunting. Chopping trees today. And I am
With a hunting
raging.
trip.
I am raging, and I am running forward with my battle axe. I drop the torch.
All right, Davey.
Yeah, I think Davey is trying to take it a little bit slower, even though he sees the door. He's fighting the urge, but Emerson takes off, and he eventually takes off after him.
All right. You all approach the doorway, and it's this weird sensation of like. It's not exactly the right sensation, but it's similar to gravity, like switching, sort of like equalizing. And you stop right outside of the doorway, and you look around, and you realize that there are others standing next to you. You're all four together now, even though you didn't see each other walk out. And you look around at the charred wasteland that is the village now, and these people picking through the rubble, and they just look up at you and scowl at you, but they do not approach you. They kind of cower away at your approach.
Before anybody does anything, Caradoc immediately slings his longbow back over his shoulder, puts the arrow back in the quiver, and just embraces Davy in this like very, very tight hug, sort of shaking a little as he holds him, and he says, "Oh gods, it's good to see you again, nephew."
I don't think it'll last long, Uncle. This is, we're not home yet.
No, we're not, but I know of a place that we can go. I saw a cave earlier. Maybe we can make our way there, provided none of these fucks try and stop us.
Sounds like the only way to me. He looked back at his head of realizing that everyone is there. So I didn't see you at all. Thank the gods you're out.
Max is actually already charged to the crowd, and if anyone gets in her way, she is cutting them down.
Yeah, no, none of them seem to stop your progression. They sort of just at your approach, they sort of just like move away from you. None of them come near.
She just screams out and says, "Fuck all of you! Fuck all of you! Fuck you and your stupid tower!"
They don't seem to understand. They just stare at you. This mad woman just screaming at them.
So Fergus actually says to just whoever can hear him, "Did we ever find out who the master was?"
No, I don't think we did, but I mean, there's nothing else. We were in the longhouse. We saw the trap door. We were in that. He sort of looks over his shoulder at the tower and shudders. That place. There's nowhere else to go. I guess all that's left is to go back home.
And
If
Fergus just shakes his head and he says, "That weird bitch."
What weird bitch? There were a lot of weird bitches over the last few days.
There were several weird bitches.
Yeah.
The first weird bitch.
Well, let's hope that they don't have any more cleavers hiding up their sleeves.
So then we begin making our way to this cave. Is where you said you're going?
Yeah, that's where Caradoc was going, though. He'd probably call out and be like, Miss Max, we're heading towards that cave. I mean, if you... I don't know. I don't know how to handle women when they get like this. Whenever Edwina gets pissed off, I just slowly back out of the room.
Yeah, I have run all the way back to that one tree, and I'm smacking my axe into that fallen tree. I am so annoyed right now.
The one with the worms in it?
Yes.
Don't cut it open.
All right, so you guys are making your way to the cave?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a trail that sort of connects up to this main road in town, and it exits out of town and up the side of the valley. Again, it's one of these dry riverbeds. You have to climb up like dry waterfalls and like hop over rocks, but you finally make it to the mouth of this cave, and you enter inside, and there's a lot of bones on the floor. There are a lot of bones on the floor. And there's this opening in the back of the cave, maybe large enough for one man to enter at a time.
Maybe we should just go get the mule and go home.
This could be where the master is, though. We've done all this, Fergus. We have been into the tower. We've seen all of this insane shit. Might as well finish it. Let's end this. Let's put this evil to rest.
I never thought of myself as much of an evil rester. That's all.
I think the word you're looking for, my friend, is hero. You know, and I don't think we're heroes, but I think we have a duty, especially to those poor women that apparently were burned alive. I don't know if anyone managed to save them, but and to Bane and to Rourke. You know, they died for this, whatever this is. I say we find out.
I suppose I can't go back alone. And he like kicks at the dirt and he says, "Fuck, man."
Don't worry, Fergus. We'll be right behind you.
Yeah, Max eventually arrives, remembering that you guys were talking about going to a cave, and it's just like, what's the plan?
Well, we're gonna go into this cave and see what we can see. Finish this, maybe.
All right. Again, this cave is this opening is only large enough for one man to enter at a time. So what's the marching order here?
Guess if
think,
I'm going to be a hero, I may as well do it right. I'll go first.
All right. Fergus is going in first.
I'll go second.
I do have a shield.
Okay,
And
you're holding
he
your shield
does
out
that
before you.
same thing, like, yeah, holding it in front of him where he can barely see over. But I don't have my pepper box. He's got his sword.
Okay, cool. Max is behind him. Who's behind Max?
Davey and Emerson.
And then Caradoc and Pavel will be rear.
All right, you enter in, and the cave is that same